Chapter 2978. After pondering for a while, Xian Feiling asked, "How did you plan to deal with it?" Lin Sun answered without hesitation, "Of course I killed them. But now that I think about it, it might be more useful to keep them alive." "What do you mean?" "They left alive. Although the god race behind them hates me to the bone, they won't dare to rashly come to our sect to cause trouble. After all, the sect's foundation is there for all to see." Lin Sun said, "Also, I'll let them know that on the way back to the sect, Voodoo cult and Zen cult don't care about their lives at all in order to snatch the divine level power in my hands. Sow discord? That's easy to see through. There's no harm in seeing through them. I just want to take this opportunity to discuss the shaman cult and Zen cult. At the very least, when Qiao Shui and Song Fufeng return to their clans in the future, it'll definitely be impossible for them to speak well of the shaman cult and Zen cult." "Then I'll do as you say." Xian Feiling immediately made the decision. Lin Sun was stunned and said, "Do you think it's feasible?" Xian Feiling said, "If I'm not wrong, it won't be long before the big shots of the Wen clan and Song clan come to us in person. They're here to denounce us. At that time, we can take the opportunity to ask for some benefits from them. After all, we can't just give away the hostages." Lin Sun took out Wen Qiao Shui and Song Fufeng's primordial spirits and handed them over to Xian Feiling. "Then I'll have to trouble Senior to settle this matter." Xian Feiling couldn't help but laugh. "Kid, I'm afraid you've already decided to leave this pair of hot potatoes to me." Lin Sun also smiled. "I just think that the best way to solve this problem is to have you come forward." That night, Lin Sun returned to his cave residence and felt relaxed. This time, he had participated in the undying battle for more than 10 years. He had experienced a lot of killing, but he had also gained a lot. Lin Sun had done a headcount before. There were more than 8,000 Earth rank sequences and more than 300 Heaven rank sequences. Just this alone was enough to shock the world and cause countless great powers to drool with envy. After all, it was extremely difficult for a Nirvana God stage powerhouse to search for Earth rank order energy under normal circumstances. Apart from these, Lin Sun also had 9 ninth-grade heaven-level sequences that had transformed into Flying Sword. As for the other Heaven Rank 9 Order and God Rank Order fragments, they were all refined during the Heavenly Demon Territory's Transcendence realm. Of course, the greatest gain was undoubtedly a complete divine-level sequence, which Lin Sun had named Absolute Beginning. When he was in the 10 demonic lands, he had killed the participants of the Voodoo cult, the Zen cult, and the 10 great immortal giant. Lin Sun had also seized a large number of treasures. There were divine weapons, rare divine materials, elixirs, and so on. After all the participants were at the perfection stage of the Nirvana God realm, and they were the core figures of the various great powers. So, the treasures they possessed were naturally extraordinary. Compared to these, the treasures they'd obtained on the way back to the sect were similarly of a great variety. Especially after killing Wang Zhongyuan and the other 10 Transcendent Realm Great Perfection existences, as well as an Earth priest like Zhu Wenheng. Just counting the spoils of war from these old monsters made him dazzled and amazed. In short, this operation was truly dangerous, but the rewards were also extremely great. In terms of wealth, everyone in the Yuan school would have to bow their heads in shame in front of Lin Sun. "I can keep some of these order powers for Jing Xian, Fan, and the others to use in the future. The rest can be given to my good friends in the sect." Lin Sun pondered. He thought of Feng Qishi, Drifting Cloud Feng, Tao Ling, Yi Chunjun, Qin Ruoling, Huang Muji, and the others. These were all friends he could rely on. As for the other treasures, if there's a chance in the future, I can give them to those who have always supported me. Lin Sun was very clear that the faster he was promoted, the more he needed to establish his influence and prestige. To achieve this goal, there were only 2 words: both kindness and prestige. Grace was kindness. It could be a reward, friendship, or any other form of affection. The most direct way was undoubtedly to exchange cultivation resources for support. Prestige was very simple. As long as one's cultivation was strong enough, no one would dare to disobey. Soon, Lin Sun took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle contained 10 drops of innate divine dew, which were born from the Yuan school's god-level order power. They were immeasurably useful for the cultivation of the transcendent realm. Lin Sun opened the jade bottle, and a golden glow instantly swept out, filling the entire room. Bursts of medicinal fragrance permeated the air, and the order power was faintly rising. It was extremely magical. When he opened the jade bottle, a drop of divine dew instantly rolled out. It was round and translucent, and it was enshrouded in golden light. Looking closely, there were countless strands of order power intertwining and rolling within the divine dew. They were like dense golden electric arcs, dazzling and dazzling. Lin Sun took a deep breath, sat cross-legged, and swallowed the drop of divine dew. Boom! Suddenly, even with Lin Sun's current cultivation, his body trembled. Following that, the horrifying power of the Great Way erupted like a volcano, making Lin Sun feel like his entire body was about to explode. What a horrifying order power! Lin Sun immediately revolved his cultivation and tried his best to dissolve the order essence contained within the drop of innate divine dew. The transcendent realm transcended the rules of heaven and earth. In addition to continuing to refine the order power, one also needed to comprehend the rules of heaven and earth. Only by comprehending the mysteries of the rules of heaven and earth could one be able to control and use the power of rules after attaining the eternal realm. Now, Lin Sun already understood that every complete order power originated from the rules of heaven and earth. It was a manifestation of the power of rules. Because every cultivator refined a large amount of order power, each of them was different. Therefore, if one wanted to improve his cultivation in the transcendent realm, he would need to sort out and integrate the order power that he grasped. This integration would be reflected in the immortal law. The immortal law that a transcendent realm cultivator grasped was also known as the transcendent law. It was condensed from the various order power that he refined. The purer the immortal law was, the faster his cultivation would improve, and the stronger the power that he released would be. For Lin Sun, this wasn't a problem at all. As early as when he was in the heavenly longevity realm, he had already comprehended the mysteries of the Nirvana order and used it to condense his own immortal law. Over the years, from the heavenly longevity realm to the Nirvana realm, and from the Nirvana realm to the current transcendent realm, almost all the order power that he refined was first refined by the Nirvana order. All of this allowed Lin Sun to absorb the purest origin of order when he refined it. As a result, the transcendent law that he grasped now was not only integrated into one, but also pure and strong without any impurities. It was even better than those transcendent realm great perfection existences. This was also the reason why he could kill Wang Zhongyuan and other transcendent realm great perfection old monsters in the battle when he just attained the transcendent realm. In short, for Lin Sun, the cultivation of the transcendent realm was very simple. He just needed to continue refining the order power and temper his own immortal law. When his cultivation reached the transcendent realm great perfection, the stronger the immortal law he grasped, it meant that he would be able to perceive more laws of heaven and earth. In this way, after attaining the eternal realm, it would be easy for him to control and manipulate the rules of heaven and earth. 6 hours later, with a roar, the aura around Lin Sun gradually calmed down. Only then did he completely refine the power of the drop of innate divine dew. Lin Sun couldn't help but feel shocked when he felt the obvious improvement in his cultivation. A drop of innate divine dew actually increased his transcendent realm early-stage cultivation by about 20%. If he refined all 10 drops, wouldn't he be able to break through to the transcendent realm intermediate stage? However, Lin Sun knew that this was just an assumption. The first time he refined it might have an amazing effect, But the second time wouldn't be as good as the first time. I can't waste such a treasure on my cultivation. Lin Sun carefully kept the jade bottle. Xian Failing once said that if he was in a state of exhaustion during a battle, he only needed to swallow a drop of innate divine dew to instantly recover to his peak state. For Lin Sun, who had been through many battles, he naturally understood how powerful the innate divine dew was. Thinking about it, after continuously using the Blade of Time, Banishment Gate, Time Seal, and other supernatural powers, his energy was exhausted. However, he could instantly recover with a drop of innate divine dew. Wasn't this amazing? Lin Sun still had a lot of order power, and he didn't need to waste the innate divine dew on his cultivation. Just like now, Lin Sun took out the 9 flying swords of the Heaven Rank 9 order. Originally, he planned to treasure such a treasure. Whether it was for his relatives or his mother, Luo Qingxuan's Luo family, it would play an immeasurable role. But now, Lin Sun didn't care about it, because he still had the Nirvana Deity Order, the Absolute Beginning Order, Wushuang, Little Xian, Little Ming, and the Purple-Green Gourd. Lin Sun threw the 9 flying swords into the Abyssal Sword Cauldron, allowing the Nirvana Order to refine them. Taking the opportunity, he fell into deep thought. When my transcendent law is condensed to a certain level, maybe I can try to refine the Nirvana Order. If I can completely refine the Nirvana Order, all the mysteries contained in it will become a part of my cultivation. At that time, I can reconstruct and refine a kind of order power, or obliterate and refine a kind of order power. Even Wushuang, Little Xian, Little Ming, and the Absolute Beginning Order can all be reconstructed and reconstructed by me. In this case, the immortal law I've mastered is destined to be unparalleled. Lin Sun also knew that if he wanted to refine the Nirvana Order, he couldn't do it overnight. He had to work hard bit by bit. However, he also knew that as his cultivation improved, the speed of refining the Nirvana Order would only get faster and faster. Maybe he didn't have to wait until he reached the immortality realm to achieve this goal. Buzz. After half an hour, there was a wave of obscure ripples in the Abyssal Sword Cauldron. At the same time, Wushuang's clear voice sounded, "Master, the 9 kinds of the Heaven Rank 9 Order origin have been refined." Lin Sun immediately woke up from his meditation. In the next 2 days there would be 2 chapters of update. The big plot in the later stage was about to unfold. Goldfish needed to take some time to sort out her thoughts and the next plot. If nothing went wrong, there would be a big chapter next Wednesday. Chapter 2979. The next morning. The 9th peak. This is a 9th grade Heaven Rank origin. It's priceless. You should keep it for yourself. Peak Master Qin Wuyu was very surprised. Lin Sun came to visit early in the morning and wanted to give him a 9th grade Heaven Rank origin. He was a little confused. Peak Master, I gained a lot from the 10 Directions Devil territory this time. I don't lack similar treasures. You should accept it. Lin Sun forced a bronze box into Qin Wuyu's hands and turned to leave. Peak Master, I still have to visit Elder Xiao Wenyuan. I won't stay any longer. By the time Qin Wuyu reacted, Lin Sun was already far away. Looking at the bronze jade box in his hand, he felt a surge of emotions and warmth in his heart. Lin Sun, this kid, was really affectionate and loyal. Yuan Qing Pavilion. Xiao Yuan was also stunned for a long time before he dared to believe that Lin Sun really intended to give him the 9th grade Heaven Rank origin. He was silent for a moment and said, Lin Sun, now that you are an elder of Yuan Kong Pavilion and have made extraordinary contributions to our sect in the Immortal Tao battle, you are highly valued by the sect. I might as well be frank with you. Even if you don't bring this treasure here, I will support you when you fight for the position of Yuan Qing Pavilion's master in the future. Lin Sun smiled and said, Senior, this is a token of my appreciation. Whether or not you support me in fighting for the position of Yuan Qing Pavilion's master in the future, I just want to repay your kindness. Repay? Yes. Lin Sun nodded. He would never forget how Elder Xiao Wenyuan and Elder Li Jun supported him when he just entered the Origin sect all those years ago. He would also not forget that no matter what happened over the years, Xiao Wenyuan and other big shots would stand by his side without hesitation. This was kindness. Okay, then I will accept this treasure. Xiao Wenyuan took over the bronze box from Lin Sun with both hands and sighed with emotion in his heart. With Lin Sun's current status, he could already be on an equal footing with him. Even in terms of influence in the sect, Xiao Wenyuan could not compare with him. But Lin Sun was still grateful for his kindness and gave him such a rare treasure, which made Xiao Wenyuan feel extremely grateful. After bidding farewell to Xiao Wenyuan, Lin went to visit Yu Xiangding, the 5th Peak Master Wendongmian, the 6th Peak Master Tian Wucua, the 7th Peak Master, and Song Zhongxue, the 8th Peak Master. Each of them was given a 9th grade heaven-ranked Order Origin. For the 4 peak heads, they even felt a little flattered because they had always maintained a neutral attitude when Lin Sun first entered the Yuan sect. It was only a few years ago that he changed his impression of Lin and began to support some of Lin's actions. Because of this, they had never thought that Lin Sun would give them such a treasure today. It was too unexpected. It also made them feel gratified and relieved. At least all this proved that they were right about Lin Sun. This young man from Mind Mountain had many admirable qualities. In the future, even if he were to be in charge of the Origin Purity Pavilion, it would still be convincing. Lin Sun visited Tao Ling again. Deacon Tao Ling greets Elder Lin. As soon as he saw Lin, Tao Ling cupped his hands to salute him with a solemn look. Lin Sun said grumpily, "That's enough. Do you still need to be so polite between us?" Tao Ling grinned. According to the rules of the sect, Elder Lin's position is higher than mine, and also higher than the 9 peak heads. How can I be disrespectful? Lin Sun said with a smile. I didn't expect that such a cold and strict person like you would make fun of others. As he spoke, he handed the bronze box he had prepared to Tao Ling. Old Tao, please accept this treasure. If you dare to refuse, it means that you don't give me face. Over the years, he had the deepest relationship with Tao Ling. Tao Ling had helped him a lot and supported him in many key matters. Tao Ling took the bronze box with a sneer. Let me see what treasure it is. Let me tell you, ordinary things can't buy me. This is, after opening the bronze box and seeing the treasure inside, Tao Ling was stunned and tongue-tied. How about it? Can I buy you? Lin Sun teased. Tao Ling murmured. Is my old life worth a 9th grade heaven-ranked Order Origin? He was really shocked. This kind of treasure is enough to establish a top immortal emperor clan. After countless years of accumulation, it can even be used to wrestle with the top 10 immortal giants of the 8th heaven. Its value is so great that it can make the immortal giants of the 8th heaven crazy. But now, Lin Sun wanted to give this treasure to him. Tao Ling felt that he needed to calm down. Seeing him so absent-minded, Lin Sun suddenly laughed, patted him on the shoulder and teased, "Remember, I have bought you." After saying that, he left. Tao Ling calmed down after a long time and murmured, "Don't mention buying me, even if you let me work for you. I'm afraid it's not worth the value of a 9th grade heaven-ranked Order Origin." When he returned to his cave residence, there were only 2 strands of the 9th grade heaven-ranked Order Origin left in Lin Sun's body. After thinking about it, he gave them to Wu Shuang. Wu Shuang was extremely happy. Her big eyes were full of joy and excitement. She patted her chest and said, "Master, Wu Shuang can definitely recover to 80% of his peak strength." 80%? Lin Sun was stunned. Over the years, Wu Shuang had refined an unknown amount of Earth-grade and Heaven-grade Order Origin. In the 10 devilish territories, she had even refined a 9th grade Heaven-ranked Order Origin. Now that she had obtained 2 strands of the 9th grade Heaven-ranked Order Origin, she could only recover 80% of her strength in the end? In that case, what level of Order Origin would she have been at her peak? Wu Shuang said cautiously, Master, if Wushuang can refine that pair of purple and green gourds, she can definitely recover to her peak state. In your dreams. Lin Sun refused in a bad mood. Wushuang grinned. She had already expected this. She was already very satisfied to be able to obtain another 2 strands of the 9th grade heaven-ranked order origin. Next, Lin Sun began to think about where he should start to completely eliminate these enemies in the Yuan clan in one fell swoop. If he acted according to the rules, it was bound to be too slow and a waste of time. It would also be easier to kill the enemy in one blow. Moreover, with his current status, although it could be said that he was already superior, he was still inferior to the 9 deputy pavilion masters after all. Under such circumstances, if he still acted according to the rules, it was almost impossible to get rid of Fu Wenli, Qi Xiaoyun, Qi Wen, and Tang Qiu, these deputy pavilion masters. But if he acted against the rules, he would provoke the disgust and conflict of the Yuan clan. After all, in the hearts of everyone in the Yuan clan, rules were above everything else. Just like a few years ago, even though Fu Wenli and the others wanted to kill him, they did not dare to act arbitrarily because of the rules of the Yuan clan. It was the same for Lin Sun. Therefore, he had to find another way. In a cave residence, Yuan Changtian's face was gloomy, and he was silent. Lin Sun's return alive was undoubtedly bad news for him. What was worse was that now the whole Yuan clan had begun to resist and resent his existence. Now, no matter where he went, he encountered disdainful, and hostile eyes, and all he heard was some criticism and slander against him. He felt like a rat crossing the street, and everyone was shouting at him to kill him. Young master. Soon, Yuan Shilio walked into the cave residence. Did you find out how Lin Sun came back alive? Yuan Changtian asked. Yuan Shilio's expression was gloomy. According to the news sent back by the clan, ancestor Su Kuan's Dharma idol was killed by an existence of the same level. The one who killed him was not an elder of the Yuan clan, but Kong Ju, a close friend of the master of the Heart sect and the martial uncle of the Heart sect's successor. Although space-time Ju killed Yuan Sun's Dharma idol, he let the great subduing spirit sword escape. It was with this sword that the Yuan clan learned some of the truth that happened during the battle. Kongju? Yuan Changtian was startled. He is also an eternal realm existence. Yes. Yuan Shilio immediately told some news about Kongju. Before he reached the eternal realm, Kongju's attainments in the immortal path were almost invincible, and even the major forces of the 8th heaven were afraid of him. However, due to a problem with Kongju's state of mind, he became delirious, and even his cultivation base disappeared, so for many years, no one cared about him. But no one expected that he has reached the eternal realm now. Hearing this, Yuan Changtian was speechless for a while. This was a variable. If it weren't for this variable, how could Lin Sun return to the Yuan clan alive? Where is Kongju now? Yuan Changtian asked. I don't know. Yuan Shilio shook his head. Entering the eternal realm was equivalent to standing at the top of the heavens. How could anyone find the traces of such a person? What should I do? Yuan Changtian frowned. The current situation is extremely unfavorable for me. Those guys in the Yuan clan can't wait to kill me. How can I fight for the position of Yuan Qing Pavilion Master in the future? Yuan Shilio said in a low voice, Young Master, the clan has sent a message, asking you to stay here for a period of time no matter what. Yuan Changtian frowned. Why? Yuan Shilu said, The clan said that they can't afford to lose that divine rank order, and they asked Young Master to seize it no matter what. So long as you succeed, it would be a great merit, and Young Master would immediately be appointed as the successor of the Patriarch. Hearing this promise, Yuan Changtian was not happy at all. Instead, he sneered, A divine order is so valuable that it can't be compared with the position of the young Patriarch. What's more, now Lin Sun is hiding in the Yuan clan, with the protection of those old monsters, who dares to attack him? Yuan Shilio said, "Young master, this is the order of the clan. It can't be disobeyed." Yuan Changtian narrowed his eyes and fell into silence. "Young master, don't worry. The clan will use all its strength to help you. For example, in the Yuan clan, Fu Wenli, Qi Shaoyun and other old guys will listen to you." Yuan Shilio said, "That is to say, you don't need to do it yourself. As long as you convey the order to Fu Wenli and others, they will do it for you." Yuan Changtian's eyes flickered. "Well, I can promise you this. But you go and tell the clan that I will return to the clan immediately and take over the power of the young patriarch." Yuan Shilio smiled and said, "Yes." Chapter 2980. Yuan Changtian asked, "Who do you think has the closest relationship with Lin Sun in the entire Yuan church?" Yuan Shilio thought for a while and said, "Li Zhen and Tao Ling should be one of them." Yuan Changtian nodded. "If we want to deal with Lin Sun, we have to start with these two people. Old ancestor, please go and tell Fu Wenli to find a chance to arrange a mission for Tao Ling." "Why Tao Ling?" Yuan Shilio was puzzled. Li Zhen is the elder of Yuan Qing Pavilion. Although Tang Qiu is the deputy head, he has been hindered by Fang Daoping and Yu Xing. If Tang Qiu sends Li Zhen to do something, Fang Daoping will be alarmed. Yuan Changtian said casually, "Tao Ling is different. He's only a deacon in the Sky Origin Pavilion. Be it the Talisman Emperor or Qi Shaoyun, they can send him out at will without worrying about attracting attention." Yuan Shilio praised, "Young master, you are so thoughtful. Tao Ling alone can't threaten Lin Sun. But there is no other way. Tao Ling is the most suitable candidate in the whole Yuan church." Yuan Changtian sighed. Soon, Yuan Shilio took the order and left. An hour later. "Young master, everything has been arranged. We just need to find a chance to draw Tao Ling out of Yuan church," Yuan Shilio reported. Yuan Changtian nodded. "Old ancestor, you should be careful. Don't leave any evidence. If this matter is exposed, it will be bad for both you and me." Yuan Shilio said, "Don't worry, young master. I promise I won't let these things affect you." 7 days later. "Young master, Tao Ling has left Yuan church today." Yuan Shilu came to report with a trace of joy between his brows. "It's quite a coincidence. A few days ago, Tao Ling had already accepted a mission from the sect to travel for a period of time. Supposedly, he intends to find a good seedling in the outside world and take him as his disciple. In this way, no one will suspect us even if something happens to Tao Ling." Yuan Changtian was stunned. "Is there such a coincidence?" Yuan Shilu smiled. "This is what it means to have one's destiny." Fu Wenli and the others had originally planned to use other methods to send Tao Ling out, but even they didn't expect that just as they were about to act, they would receive news that Tao Ling had already accepted a mission to go out. "This is truly the heavens helping us," Yuan Changtian muttered. "Now is not the time to celebrate. Capturing Tao Ling is only the first step. The second step is unpredictable." Yuan Shilio said, "Young lord, are you worried that something might happen to Lin Sun? What do you think Lin Sun would think if he knew that Tao Ling was captured?" Yuan Changtian answered his own question. "If I were him, I would have suspected that this was a plot against me. It's easy to guess. At that time, do you think Lin Sun dares to rescue Tao Ling?" Yuan Shilu was silent for a moment, then said, "Then we can only see how much weight Tao Ling has in his heart." Yuan Changtian nodded. "Yes, the key to the second step lies in Lin's choice. If he thinks that Tao Ling is not worth saving and continues to hide in his sect, then our mission will have failed. What if he chooses to rescue Tao Ling?" Yuan Shilio couldn't help but ask. Yuan Changtian said, "Then he must be well prepared to go. This involves another problem. How to ensure that Lin Sun goes to rescue Tao Ling alone, and it's impossible for him to ask the elders of Yuan school for help." Yuan Shilio frowned and said, "Then tell him that as long as anyone other than him appears, Tao Ling will not be able to live." Yuan Changtian shook his head and said, It's hard to say. We must be prepared in advance. Young lord, please enlighten me. Tell Fu Wenli and the others to mobilize all of them. Yuan Changtian took a deep breath. As long as Lin Sun dares to go, no matter whether he brings helpers or not, he must be killed to avoid future troubles. Yuan Shilio was shocked. Lin Sun is only in the transcendent realm initial. Is it really necessary to make such a fuss? Yuan Changtian said coldly, when I went to participate in the Immortal Tao battle, you also asked me the same question. But in the end, I sent out ancestor Su Kuan's Dharma image. Didn't Lin Sun still come back alive? Yuan Shilio cupped his hands. Young lord, you're right. Yuan Changtian frowned. Now, the only thing I worry about is Lin Sun's martial uncle Kong Ju. Although the Eternal Realm experts will be counterattacked by the rules of heaven and earth, they can still send out their Dharma image to participate in the battle. If Kong Ju's Dharma image also participates in this operation, we will have no chance of winning. Yuan Shilio laughed and said, Young lord, please rest assured. Every time an Eternal Realm expert loses a Dharma image, it takes at least a month to condense a new one. Now, it's only 8 days since Lin Sun returned to the sect. It's impossible for him to get another Dharma image belonging to Kong Ju. Yuan Changtian was stunned and said, If so, things will be easy. In front of Lin Sun's cave residence, a disciple guarding the ancient transmission array came to greet him and handed a jade slip to Lin Sun. Elder Lin, the disciple said that you will understand after reading this jade slip, and then left in a hurry without saying anything else. Lin Sun was stunned. He put away the jade slip, took out 10 sun-moon immortal elixirs, and handed them to the disciple. Thank you. Take these elixirs and practice hard in the future. The disciple was stunned. He didn't expect that he would get such a gift just by reporting the news. After a while, he said excitedly, Thank you, Elder Lin. I will live up to your expectations. He turned around and flew away. Lin Sun opened the jade slip and looked it up and down. His pupils suddenly shrank. After a while, he put away the jade slip. Instead of returning to the cave residence, Lin Sun moved straight into the void and flew away. Where are you going, Elder Lin? On the way, a voice suddenly sounded in surprise. Lin Sun glanced at Yuan Shilio, who was also moving in the void, and said indifferently, Going out for a walk. As he spoke, his figure disappeared in the void. Haha, I didn't expect that Lin Sun was so chivalrous that he would really go alone for Taoling. Yuan Shilio laughed. Without delay, he hurried to Yuan Changtian's cave residence to report this matter. Buzz. The ancient transmission array to the outside of Primordial Realm emitted a strange light rain, and Lin Sun's figure suddenly disappeared. 6 hours later, in a starry sky far away from Primordial Realm, as soon as Lin Sun's figure appeared, the jade slip in his hand trembled slightly, producing an inexplicable call. Swish. His gaze was like lightning as it instantly locked onto a star in the distance. However, there was no aura on the star. It was barren and lifeless. Lin Sun moved and soon arrived on the star. Not long after, he came to a bare hill. Boom! With a wave of his sleeve, the hill in front of him suddenly exploded, and a green light swept out. Lin Sun's eyes and hands were sharp, and he caught the green light in the air. It was another jade slip, on which was drawn a brand new map, marked with an eye-catching bloody red dot. You're really careful. Lin Sun's lips curled into a sneer. Without delay, he took the new jade slip and continued to move. In this way, Lin Sun trekked all the way. Every time he came to a place, he would find a jade slip, in which there must be a brand new map. If it were someone else, they would have already had a lot of doubts, because it had already been a day since he came to this place, and everything he saw along the way was very strange. But Lin Sun looked very calm. He knew why the enemy was so careful. Until 2 days later, in the depths of a vast starry sky, a huge whirlpool of flowing light floated there quietly. In front of the whirlpool, an illusory and blurry figure stood there like smoke. Lin Sun, you're finally here. This figure was dressed in a black robe, and his voice was low and hoarse. His whole body was covered by an obscure aura, and his face could not be seen at all. Lin Sun stood in the air and said, "Where is he?" The black-robed figure said, "Hand over the divine order in your hand, and Tao Lung will naturally meet you alive." "I want to meet someone first," Lin Sun said. "Otherwise, I'll leave immediately." The black-robed figure was silent for a moment and said, "Behind this whirlpool door is a unique secret realm. Once the power of the eternal realm approaches, this whirlpool door will explode and dissipate. Tao Ling is in it. Do you dare to go with me?" Lin Sun raised his eyebrows and said, "You're quite well prepared. Do you dare?" the black-robed figure asked. Lin Sun said, "Lead the way." The black-robed figure did not do so, but stared at Lin Sun for a moment, and suddenly laughed and said, "I'm finally sure that you didn't bring any help of the eternal realm." "Trick me?" Lin Sun frowned. The black-robed figure said, "It's always good to be careful. My patience is limited. You'd better let Tao Ling come out to see me now." Lin Sun's eyes were cold. The black-robed figure said, "I'm afraid I can't do it now. I need to wait for a while." Lin Sun said, "How long?" 3 days at most, the black-robed figure said. Lin Sun took a deep breath and said, "Why?" The black-robed figure said, "You don't need to know." Lin Sun took a deep look at him and said, "Okay, I'll wait." The black-robed figure said, "Smart choice." Lin Sun directly sat cross-legged in the void, eyes nose 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 heart heart, like an old monk meditating. The black-robed figure laughed. "It's surprising that you can still be so calm at this time." Lin Sun ignored him. The black-robed figure asked for a rebuff, and did not speak again. Time flew. 3 days passed in a hurry. Whoosh! A stream of light broke through the sky, and was caught by the black-robed figure, and turned into a jade slip. After looking at it for a while, the black-robed figure seemed to be completely relieved, and his whole body relaxed. "Can you finally rest assured now?" In the distance, Lin Sun, who had been meditating for the past 3 days, opened his eyes and asked coldly, "Oh, I can see that you are very angry. Then I might as well tell you that the jade slip that I have been waiting for these 3 days is nothing more than to confirm a piece of news." "What news?" "Make sure that you come alone, without other helpers," the black-robed figure said indifferently. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes. "The news came from Yuan sect?" "You don't need to know this." As the black-robed figure said, he took out a jade talisman and threw it into the huge vortex of flowing light behind him. Before long, a group of figures came out of the vortex of flowing light. Chapter 2981. The group of people stood in front of the huge vortex of flowing light one after another. Each of them was shrouded in mist, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Only Tao Ling, who was in front of them, was exposed. Tao Ling was obviously in a coma. He was held by the neck and was unconscious. Seeing this scene, Lin Sun stood up and suddenly laughed. The black-robed figure frowned. "Lin Sun, hand over the divine-level power quickly. If you dare to do anything else, Tao Ling will definitely die." Lin Sun let out a long sigh and said, "Everyone, as the elders of Yuan Church, you want to use your own people to threaten me. If this gets out, how will the world think of Yuan Church?" His words caused everyone on the other side to be stunned. Immediately, the black-robed figure shouted angrily, "Lin Sun, what nonsense are you talking about? Don't blame us for being rude if you delay any longer." Lin Sun laughed. "You have painstakingly laid out a trap here. Don't you want to be rude to me? At this point, there is no need to hide, lest I look down on you." The black-robed figure was angry. When he was about to say something, the person in the middle said, "Everyone, although this little bastard is disgusting, what he said is right. Remove your disguise." Clatter! With a flash of light and shadow, his true appearance was revealed. It was Fu Wenli, the deputy head of Yuan Kong Pavilion. Next to him, As the light and shadow rolled, their true faces were revealed. They were Qi Xiaoyun, Qi Wen, and Tang Qiu, the three deputy heads. The black-robed figure was Qi Xiaoyun. At this moment, these big shots stared at Lin Sun coldly with undisguised killing intent on their faces. 4 deputy heads came to deal with me together, but still used such a dirty trick. It's really eye-opening. Lin Sun sighed with emotion. When he entered Yuan Church, he was only in the ancestor realm of Zhu Xie. In his eyes, these old monsters, who were deputy heads, were all existences that he needed to look up to. Now, in just a few decades, everything had changed. The flowers were the same every year, but the people were different every year. Fu Wenli and the others looked a little embarrassed. For them, it was really shameful and undignified to deal with Lin Sun in this way. But for the divine-level power, they couldn't care about it anymore. Cut the crap, are you going to hand over the god-level order or not? Qi Wen shouted. He grabbed Tao Ling's neck and threatened him. Hand over Elder Tao Ling first. Lin Sun said, I'm already here. Do you think I can escape? Everyone frowned. Give Tao Ling to him. Fu Wenli's eyes flickered as she gave the order. Qi Wen threw Tao Ling over. Almost at the same time, these old monsters attacked together. Boom! Terrifying light of the way rose, and dazzling Dao soldiers whizzed out. The starry sky shook violently. All the attacks were unbelievably fast. Moreover, as soon as they attacked, the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters revealed unparalleled combat experience, and they cooperated tacitly with each other and deeply understood the essence of surprise attacks. If it was any other person, they would probably hesitate whether they should save Tao Ling or avoid the conflict. As long as he had such a thought, his movements would definitely slow down. In this way, he would definitely be controlled by the enemy. But at this moment, Lin Sun's reaction was very simple. He went straight to save Tao Ling without any hesitation or slowness. Fu Wenli's eyes were filled with coldness. In their view, Lin Sun's action was absolutely no different from courting death. Maybe he could save Tao Ling, but the two of them would be instantly drowned in various attacks. However, the next moment their faces changed. Then, 5 doppelgangers rushed out of Lin Sun's body, each displaying their Taoism. Boom! The world was turbulent, and the clouds were steaming and roaring. The 5 doppelgangers resolved all the attacks, and Lin Sun naturally rescued Tao Ling without any danger. Fu Wenli and the others all showed a look of disbelief. The attack of the 4 of them could easily kill anyone in the same realm. But now, it was blocked by Lin Sun in the transcendent realm early. This was incredible. Lin Sun first sensed Tao Ling's body and found that there was no injury. Then, he put Tao Ling in the abyssal sword cauldron. Then, he looked at the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters in the distance and said with a smile, I forgot that you still don't know what happened on my way back to the sect. No wonder you dare to be so fearless. There was a hint of playfulness in his voice. Back then, when he was escaping, he killed Wang Zhongyuan, Zhu Wenheng, and other transcendent realm great perfection existences. His achievements were impressive. If it were any other transcendent realm great perfection existences who knew about this, they wouldn't dare to underestimate Lin Sun. However, only Fu Wenli and the other 3 Vice Pavilion Masters participated in this operation. This undoubtedly proved that the other party didn't know what happened at that time. What do you mean? Fu Wenli and the others frowned. That's what I mean. Lin Sun laughed. His main body and the 5 doppelgangers rushed out together. Kill! Use all your strength and quickly get rid of this bastard. Yes. Fu Wenli, Qi Xiaoyu, Qi Wen, and Tang Qiu were all filled with murderous intent and attack. A general success was built on thousands of bones. Those who could climb to the position of Vice Pavilion Master in a place like Yuan School were all top-notch existences among those in the same realm. They had a foundation and terrifying combat power that far surpassed others. Such people had lived for a long time and had rich combat experience. Not to mention in the seventh heaven, even in the eighth heaven, they were the pillars of a clan. After all, among the 10 immortal giants, the strongest one was only in the transcendent realm, Great Perfection Realm. Now, with these 4 old men attacking together, the power they displayed was naturally terrifying. Boom! For a moment, the starry sky was shaking. Countless stars and meteorites exploded, unable to withstand the pressure of the 4 old monsters. But what made their expressions change was that even under such a murderous attack, they couldn't suppress Lin Sun and his doppelgangers. No matter what kind of techniques they used, or what kind of Dao soldiers they used, they were easily resolved by Lin Sun and his doppelgangers. This almost subverted their understanding of the world. How is this possible? Qi Xiaoyun's expression changed slightly. This time, the 4 of them attacked together. They already felt ashamed. They thought that capturing Lin Sun was no different from killing an ant. If they weren't worried about the news being leaked, they wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to set up a trap here. But who would have thought that Lin Sun, who came alone without asking for help, would instead display a heaven-defying combat power? This made them somewhat unable to accept it. 10 years ago, a young man in the Nirvana God realm initial, a character they had been watching all year round, actually possessed the power to compete with them. Who dared to believe it? This was called being in the dark. The more familiar they were with Lin Sun, the more they couldn't believe and accept it when a sudden change occurred. For Fu Wenli and the others, this was the case. They watched Lin Sun enter the Yuan clan and saw his rise. They were extremely familiar with everything he had. But after 10 years, everything had changed. This was completely beyond their expectations. Boom! The battle was fierce. Lin Sun also noticed that the 4 deputy pavilion masters' combat power was very strong. They were far more powerful than Wang Zhongyuan and the others. They were even more powerful than the shaman Zhu Wenheng. In the past, only the experts of the Eternal Realm could suppress such old monsters in the world. But Lin Sun was different. He walked on the immortal supreme path. When his cultivation broke through to the transcendent realm, his accumulated potential for many years was completely unleashed, and he had already transformed into a completely different person. At this moment, his original body and the Scarlet Flame Tao body were fighting against Qi Xiaoyun, while the other 4 doppelgangers were fighting against Fu Wenli, Qi Wen, and Tang Qiu. Whether it was his original body or doppelgangers, they all revealed their invincible combat power in this realm. Instead of being suppressed, they began to suppress their opponents. Die! Not long after, Lin Sun let out a long roar. The abyssal sword cauldron bombarded. With a clang, the black halberd in Qi Xiaoyun's hand was shaken away. The sword cauldron didn't lose its momentum and smashed on Qi Xiaoyun's body. Puff! Qi Xiaoyun's mouth and nose were bleeding. His chest collapsed, and all his defensive power was shattered. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Scarlet Flame Tao body rushed up and pressed his palm. Bang! Qi Xiaoyun didn't even have the time to dodge before his body exploded, turning into ashes that filled the sky. An old monster who had been the deputy pavilion master of Yuan Kong Pavilion for many years was killed just like that. The scene of the 4 made Fu Wenli and the others completely change their expressions and feel a chill in their hearts. They finally realized why Lin Sun dared to come alone. With his current combat power, there was no need for him to ask for help. Now, do you understand why I can return to the sect alive? I'm not afraid to tell you that Wang Zhongyuan and the other 9 old guys from the 10 immortal giants, as well as the earth priest of the witchcraft cult, Zhu Wenheng, were all killed by me. Lin Sun's eyes were dark and cold. His indifferent voice floated in the air. Deputy Pavilion Master Xian Fei and Ling all knew about this. I deliberately asked them to hide it from you. I didn't expect that you were really stupid enough to attack me. What's the difference between this and courting death? The faces of Fu Wenli and the others became more and more gloomy. Kill! All of them exerted all their skills as if they were desperate, displaying all their trump cards. Unfortunately, it was still in vain. Lin Sun and his doppelgangers cooperated seamlessly. 6 against 3, they completely restrained and suppressed Fu Wenli and the others. Die! Before long, the black water Tao body let out a roar and attacked Qi Wen together with the green wood Tao body. They killed Qi Wen on the spot in one fell swoop. His body was blown up and his spirit was crushed. Go! Fu Wenli and Tang Qiu were both frightened out of their wit. They didn't dare to struggle anymore. They fled immediately and used forbidden secret method. They did this to ensure the success of their escape. But at the same time, Lin Sun also used his talent, space-time seal. The rules of time between heaven and earth were suddenly affected, producing a silent and amazing change. Wisps of time intertwined and condensed into the power of restriction, covering the starry sky area. Bang! Bang! 2 muffled sounds rang out. Both Fu Wenli and Tang Qiu, who had used forbidden secret techniques to escape, directly collided with the time seal. As the forbidden secret technique they had used was too violent and ferocious, forcefully colliding with the seal caused them to see stars. It was so painful that they almost coughed up blood. Looking at the time seal again, it only rippled. It was impregnable. Chapter 2982. Fu Wenli and Tang Qiu were like caged beasts, shocked and angry at the same time. Outside the seal of time, Lin Sun looked at them indifferently and said, "How does it feel?" Fu Wenli said coldly, "If you kill us, the 10 immortal forces of the 8th heaven will not let you go. Because of your actions today, you will even plant the seeds of disaster for the Yuan sect, so you don't have to show off at this moment." Lin Sun laughed. "I'd like to ask, when have the top 10 forces ever given up on my actions? As early as in the vast 1,000 battle domains, until I entered the eternal world, the shadows of the 10 forces can be seen everywhere in the bloody slaughter I experienced. Do you think that I will still care about this now?" After a pause, he continued, "A long time ago, when my master, the master of the heart, went to the 9th heaven through the 8th heaven, you all lowered your heads and didn't dare to be presumptuous, but when you heard that my master was in trouble in the 9th heaven, you all took pleasure in his misfortune and used all means to deal with the master of the heart. Don't you feel that you are like a group of watchdogs? And when my great-grandfather Luo Tongtian went to the Eternal Gate, he was also ambushed by you dogs, right? I have never dared to forget this enmity." Fu Wenli's face became more and more ugly. "The winner takes all. If you want to use this opportunity to humiliate me, you are dreaming." Lin Sun said indifferently, "Whether you are dreaming or not, your life and death are in my hands." Tang Qiu, who had been silent, changed his expression and said sternly, "Lin Sun, we are all deputy pavilion masters of the Yuan sect. If you dare to kill us, the Yuan sect will not tolerate you." Lin Sun laughed, his eyes faint. "Everything that happened today has been recorded by me in a jade slip. How do you think everyone in the sect will feel when they see this scene?" Tang Qiu's heart sank to the bottom, and he said angrily, "So you have already planned this?" Lin Sun said calmly, "I can't help it. It's never wrong to be careful." Boom! Fu Wenli suddenly attacked, trying to break the seal of time. He obviously realized that Lin Sun was going to kill him and decided to fight with his life. However, this seal of time was powerful enough to trap the avatar of an eternal realm figure like Yuan Su Kuan for several hours. How could he break it? Ripples appeared on the seal of time, like an indestructible barrier. No matter how hard the runes tried, they could not break it. This made him feel despair. Since when did this little vile creature of minuscule mountain of mind and heart become so powerful? At this moment, Lin Sun didn't speak any further. His main body and the 5 great Tao bodies charged into the temporal restriction and launched a slaughter. In a flash, Fu Wenli and Tang Qiu were killed one after another. They also tried to perish together with Lin Sun, but it was in vain. Even at the moment of his death, he was filled with unwillingness and hatred. Lin soon cleaned up the battlefield and found a jade slip among Qi Xiaoyun's belongings. Previously, Qi Xiaoyun had waited for 3 days for this jade strip to appear. It was also because of this jade slip that Qi Xiaoyun was sure that Lin Sun had not asked other big shots in the sect for help. Lin Sun opened the jade slip, and an old voice came from it. Xian Feiling, Dugu Yong, Fang Daoping, Yu Xing, none of them left the sect. You can kill Lin Sun without worry. This was the voice of Yuan Shiliu. Lin Sun's eyes narrowed slightly. Sure enough, you have long been in cahoots with each other. He was not angry, this was within his expectations. Old Tao, how do you feel? Lin Sun released Tao Ling from the abyssal sword cauldron and woke him up. Tao Ling looked absent-minded. He shook his dizzy head and said, Is the matter resolved? Lin Sun nodded. No one was spared. Tao Ling made an O sound. His mind was still a little muddled. After a while, he suddenly realized something. With a hiss, he sucked in a breath of cold air and said, You mean, destroy Fu Wenli and the others? Don't make such a fuss, okay? Lin Sun said angrily. Tao Ling looked shocked and said, Those 4 are all deputy pavilion masters. Do you know that any one of them can go out and the immortal giants of the 8th heaven have to be polite? But you actually killed all of them. How can I not be surprised? Lin Sun rubbed his eyebrows, thought for a moment, and said seriously, Old Tao, from now on, you should accept the fact that I have become very powerful. In the past, Tao Ling would definitely spit in disdain and scold him for blowing his own trumpet. But now Tao Ling was stunned. Yes, his impression of Lin Sun seemed to still be the same as when he first entered the Yuan sect many years ago. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that most people in the Yuan sect were the same as him. They had not truly realized that the current Lin Sun was no longer the same as before. He was already a transcendent realm existence and had the ability to kill a transcendent realm great perfection expert. In the entire Yuan sect, it was enough to overshadow the deputy pavilion masters. Without the 3 pavilion masters, who in the Yuan sect could compete with Lin Sun in terms of combat power, and in the entire eternal true world, the current Lin Sun was enough to surpass the 7th heaven. He was enough to wrestle with the top 10 immortal giants. His might was not something ordinary immortal figures could compare to. So what if he lived for a long time? So what if he had monstrous prestige in the past? In front of Lin Sun, he was destined to be crushed. It was not an exaggeration to say that the current Lin Sun was not inferior to the sky-reaching master at his peak. In fact, he might even surpass him. For a moment, Tao Ling was filled with emotions. Old Tao, are you sure you're not injured? Lin Sun looked at Tao Ling, who did not speak for a long time and couldn't help but feel worried. Tao Ling shook his head and said, No, I purposely let them capture me in this operation. Moreover, they are powerful figures, and they don't even bother to do anything to me. Lin Sun let out a sigh of relief. That's good. Many days ago, he and Tao Ling had a secret discussion and decided to use Tao Ling as a bait to leave the Yuan sect and travel to attract the enemy's attention. Their ultimate goal was to eliminate the powerful enemies in the Yuan sect. Based on Lin Sun's previous considerations, if they were in the Yuan sect, there would be no chance for them to do anything. Moreover, it was inappropriate to violate the sect's rules. As such, he could only use schemes to lure the enemy to make the first move. Only then could he legitimately eliminate the enemy. The reason why Lin Sun chose Tao Ling was very simple. If he went out to travel in person, it would definitely arouse the vigilance of those enemies, and it was inevitable that they would doubt his motives. But it was different for Tao Ling. Tao Ling was the closest to Lin Sun, and he was just a deacon. If he acted as a bait to travel, the enemy would not be too vigilant. Sure enough, the enemy was fooled. Fu Wenli and others boasted of their cautiousness. They deliberately set up a deceptive array along the way, and even made many tests to make sure that Lin Sun did not ask for help. But they probably didn't expect that all this was in Lin Sun's plan. Of course, Lin Sun didn't expect that Yuan Changtian had already made a detailed plan, and the target was Taolong. It was to the point that when their plans collided, not only did it not cause any accidents, but it also made everything exceptionally smooth. Perhaps this was what Yuan Shilio said at the beginning: everything was predestined. Without further delay, Lin Sun and Tao Lung returned to the sect together. 2 days later, Yuan sect. In the central hall, Xian Feiling, Du Guyong, Fang Daoping, Yu Xing, and Yuan Wutian gathered together. In addition, Lin Sun and Tao Ling, who had just returned to the sect, were also there. A light curtain appeared in the void. What was shown on the light curtain was the scene of Lin Sun, Fu Wenli, and the other 3 vice pavilion masters confronting each other and fighting with each other. Until the end, the expressions of Xian Feiling and others had become extremely interesting. Shock, astonishment, anger, disbelief, everything was there. After a while, Xian Feiling looked at Lin Sun with a complicated expression and said, "Why didn't you tell us about this earlier?" Lin Sun said, "It's more important to save people. What's more, they all said not to disclose this matter to anyone. For the safety of Deacon Taolong, I had to go to rescue him alone." "Obviously, you dug a pit long ago and waited for Fu Wenli to jump into it." Xian Feiling snorted coldly. The expressions of other old monsters were also very subtle, and they all looked at Lin Sun with a strange expression. After this incident, they finally realized that Lin Sun's combat power was so strong that he could threaten the old monsters like them. Lin Sun didn't blush at all. He smiled and said, "Senior, I'm doing this out of righteousness. I risked my life to save Deacon Taolong. How can you still doubt my intentions?" Everyone couldn't help laughing. Of course, they also knew that even if Lin Sun set up Fu Wenli and others, no one would admit this kind of thing. If the news that 4 vice pavilion masters died at once spreads out, the whole sect will be in turmoil, and if it is spread to the outside world, I'm afraid it will cause unpredictable disturbances. Fang Daoping frowned and muttered, "How do you think we should solve this matter?" Xian Feiling said indifferently, "Since it's already happened, let's take this opportunity to clean up the sect. Didn't we endure and wait for so many years for a chance to get rid of our internal troubles?" His words made other old people's eyes narrow. "I'm afraid this will hurt the sect deeply." Du Guyong sighed. Today, there were many people from the top 10 immortal giants in Yuan's sect, including the descendants of the 9 peaks, peak masters, deacons, and elders. It could be said that if they were completely cleaned up, the number of people in Yuan's sect would be reduced by at least 40%. Without destruction, there can be no construction. If we don't eliminate these internal troubles, Yuan's sect will never have a chance to compete with other ancestral courts in the future. Fang Daoping took a deep breath. "I support doing this, but we don't need to do it with great fanfare. Just find some excuses and secretly take down these internal troubles one by one." Xian Feiling said, "Yes, such a thing can't be made public. It's best to tell other people in the sect after all the internal troubles are eliminated." The other old monsters all nodded. A purge of the sect's internal affairs was decided with just a few words. P.S. Tomorrow there will be at least 4 chapters, but if nothing goes wrong, there will be more than 4 chapters. At about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, there will be 2 chapters. Chapter 2983. Now that Fu Wenli and the other 3 vice pavilion masters were killed, the 10 immortal realm powerhouses scattered in the Yuan sect were like a group of dragons without a leader. It would be a piece of cake for Xian Feiling and the others to get rid of all the internal troubles. However, just as they were about to act, Lin Sun hurriedly said, "Seniors, there is one more thing." "What is it?" Xian Feiling was stunned. Lin Sun took out a jade slip, and the voice of Yuan Shilio came from it. "Xian Feiling, Du Guyong, Fang Daoping, none of them have left Yuan sect. You can kill Lin Sun without worry." Hearing this, Xian Feiling and the others' faces darkened. Only then did they realize that Yuan Shilio was involved in this operation against Lin Sun. There was no doubt that Yuan Changtian knew about it. When Lin Sun and I were on our way back, we were intercepted by Yuan Shukuan's will. We haven't settled the score with them yet, but I didn't expect them to be so crazy as to kill us in Yuan's sect. Do they really think we don't dare to do anything to them? Fang Daoping's voice was full of murderous intent. He was completely infuriated. They must have the support of Genji behind them. They must be after Lin Sun's divine level order. Du Guyong pondered, how do you think we should deal with these two? Lin Sun was the first to speak, let them live. Everyone was stunned, and they were slightly surprised. Lin Sun continued, our top priority is to eradicate the internal troubles in our sect. It's not the time to fall out with Genji. You plan to let them go just like that? Xian Feiling couldn't help but be surprised. Lin Sun smiled, of course not. In my opinion, we should suppress them first. Even if Genji asks, we can say that they are in closed-door training. We can even tell Genji that Yuan's sect has made an exception to promote Yuan Changtian to Deputy Pavilion Master and is ready to support him in his bid for the position of Yuan Qing Pavilion Master. After a pause, he said, in this way, as long as the news doesn't leak out, Genji won't fall out with Yuan's sect. Who knows, they might even fantasize about the day when Yuan Changtian becomes the Yuan Qing Pavilion Master. The hall was silent, and all the old monsters looked weird, which made Lin Sun uncomfortable. All right, we'll do as you say. After a while, Xian Feiling nodded in agreement, unable to conceal the smile on his face. The other old monsters also did the same, and they didn't conceal the admiration in their hearts. Lin Sun's action was tantamount to delaying time for the Yuan Church. As long as he could delay it until Pavilion Master Yuan Qing, Yu Beihai, reached the immortality realm, the outcome would be set. Otherwise, with the current foundation of the Yuan sect, once they start a war with the Minamoto clan of the Ninth Heaven, they will definitely suffer a great loss. Moreover, right now, if they cleared out the internal problems of the sect, the first thing they would have to face would most likely be the 10 Undying Giant. At this time, it was really not good to provoke a stronger opponent. While it was true that the Yuan sect wasn't afraid of contending against the Minamoto divine race, doing so would inevitably lead to uncontrollable risk. For example, if the Shaman sect and Zen sect took the opportunity to interfere in the battle against the Minamoto clan, then the situation would be far from good. In the end, what the Yuan sect needed now was time. If Yu Beihai proved his Tao for eternity, if Yan Ji repaired his mental state, if Tai Xian walked out of seclusion, why would they be afraid of these? It could be said that Lin Sun's current suggestion was undoubtedly based on the overall situation of the Yuan sect, and not just for his own personal grudge. This was also what made Xian Feiling and the others feel gratified and appreciative. To hold the position of Pavilion Master Yuan Qing, one should naturally have such vision and breadth of mind. If one only cared about the hatred in front of him and ignored the overall situation, he was destined to be a reckless man who would only bring many disasters to the Yuan sect. In a cave residence, Yuan Shilio's expression was ugly as he said quickly, "Young master, I just received news that Lin Sun and Tao Ling came back alive." Bang! Yuan Changtian crushed the wine glass in his hand, and the wine spilled everywhere. His face had already become extremely gloomy. 4 deputy pavilion masters, but they couldn't do anything to Lin Sun? What about Fu Wenli and the others, have they come back? Yuan Shilio shook his head. Yuan Changtian's heart sank. It's over. From now on, our situation in the Yuan sect is destined to be difficult. He completely realized that the situation was not good. At this time, his own situation was very likely to become dangerous, let alone coveting the divine level order in Lin Sun's body. Young master, this matter is too strange. No one helped Lin Sun, but Lin Sun brought Tao Ling back alive. Do you think there is a powerful figure who doesn't belong to the Yuan sect helping him? Yuan Shilio frowned. He still didn't know that with Lin Sun's current combat strength, It was enough to handle this matter by himself. He still thought there was a powerful figure helping Lin Sun. This was cognitive bias. Yuan Changtian took a deep breath and said, "This matter is no longer important. Once Fu Wenli and the others died, the situation of the Yuan sect will definitely change greatly. If my guess is right, Xian Failing and the others will definitely take this opportunity to carry out a thorough purge in the Yuan sect. Only in this way can the Yuan sect be completely stabilized. Only by doing so can we deal with external disturbances." Yuan Changtian said in a low voice, "Under such circumstances, I have no chance to fight for the position of Pavilion Master Yuan Qing. Even you and I are very likely to be in trouble." Yuan Shilio was shocked and his expression changed. "Young master, if the Yuan sect dares to do this, aren't they afraid of offending our clan?" "Why not?" Yuan Changtian said. "Although I'm the divine son of the clan, who can guarantee that the clan will really be willing to go to war with the Yuan sect to avenge me after I die? What's more, the Yuan sect is not to be trifled with. Although their leader has been wandering around for many years and hasn't returned yet, the Yuan sect is protected by a complete divine-level order. No matter who wants to take down the Yuan sect, I'm afraid they will have to pay a heavy price." Hearing this, Yuan Shilio also realized that something was wrong and said, "Young master, what do you think we should do?" At this moment, the restrictive power covering the cave residence fluctuated. Yuan Changtian opened the restrictive power, and suddenly a voice came from outside the cave residence. "Elder Yuan, Deputy Pavilion Master Xian Failing has ordered you to go to the central hall with guest Elder Yuan Shilio." Yuan Changtian and Yuan Shilio's pupils shrank, and they looked at each other with gloomy faces. "Go back and tell Deputy Pavilion Master Xian that we'll be there soon," Yuan Changtian said. "Yes." The disciple outside the cave residence received the order and left. "Young master, are we really going?" Yuan Shilio couldn't help but ask. "If we really go, I'm afraid we'll be sending sheep into a tiger's mouth. We must leave immediately. We can't delay any longer." As he spoke, Yuan Changtian stood up and walked out of the cave residence. "Old ancestor, on the way, no matter who tries to stop us, kill them without mercy. In this way we can use the teleportation ancient formation to leave the Yuan realm in half an hour at the earliest." "Yes," Yuan Shilio answered murderously. Walking out of the cave residence, the two moved at full speed towards the teleportation ancient formation. Along the way there were no twists and turns. This made the two feel much more at ease. Yuan Shilio said telepathically, "I'm afraid even Xian Failing didn't expect us to leave so quickly." There was a hint of relief in his voice. "Old ancestor, it's not worth being happy about running away with our tails between our legs." Yuan Changtian's expression was cold. He had accumulated a lot of anger in his heart. Back then, when he arrived at Yuan school, he was dazzling and respected by everyone. However, everything changed after Lin Sun returned from the ruins of fate. Now, he had even become a street rat, isolated, rejected, and despised. The gap was too huge. Soon, the teleportation ancient formation appeared in his field of vision. Yuan Changtian couldn't help but turn his head and look at the path he came from. The hatred that he had been suppressing for a long time was boiling like a raging sea. "The next time I come, I'll make you kneel down to welcome me." He gritted his teeth and swore to himself. "Young master." Yuan Shilio's solemn voice sounded. Yuan Changtian turned his head and saw a tall figure appearing out of thin air in front of the teleportation ancient formation. He was dressed in white clothes, with black hair fluttering in the wind and a handsome face. It was Lin Sun. All of a sudden, Yuan Changtian's expression turned ugly. He immediately ordered, "Kill him!" Boom! Yuan Shilio rushed towards Lin Sun, releasing his transcendent realm great perfection cultivation to the extreme, and punched out. "Get lost!" At the same time, Yuan Changtian also took action, intending to take this opportunity to enter the teleportation ancient formation. From the moment Lin Sun appeared, Yuan Changtian realized that he couldn't waste any more time. The reason why he let Yuan Shilio attack was that he was prepared to let Yuan Shilio stall Lin Sun and escape alone. In the next moment, Yuan Changtian's figure paused in midair, and his pupils dilated. Yuan Shilio, who rushed forward, was besieged by the 5 Tao bodies that rushed out of Lin Sun's body. Not only did he fail to break through, but he was suppressed to the ground in a few blinks of an eye. Boom! Smoke and dust filled the air. Yuan Shilio's hair was disheveled. He coughed up blood and knelt on the ground, unable to stand up again. Yuan Changtian's hands and feet were cold. He pointed at Lin Sun. You, how dare you attack a guest elder? Lin Sun said indifferently, Elder Yuan, you saw it with your own eyes. He attacked first. I was just defending myself. Yuan Changtian was stunned for a while. He suddenly realized something and said, Your current combat power can suppress a transcendent realm great perfection? His voice was filled with disbelief. At this moment, he thought of the 4 deputy pavilion masters, including Fu Wenli, who couldn't return alive. It was still unclear who killed these deputy pavilion masters. Since you have seen through it, Elder Yuan doesn't need to struggle anymore. Lin Sun said indifferently, What's more, I have great news to tell Elder Yuan. Great news? Yuan Changtian tried to calm himself down. What is this great news that Brother Lin is talking about? Vice Pavilion Head Xian and the others have already decided to make an exception and promote Elder Yuan to Vice Pavilion Head. In other words, from today onwards, Elder Yuan will be a Vice Pavilion Head of the Sky Pavilion. I will congratulate Vice Pavilion Head Yuan in advance. As he said, Lin Sun smiled and cupped his hands towards Yuan Changtian. Yuan Changtian was stunned. There was only one thought in his mind, a conspiracy. This is definitely a conspiracy. Chapter 2984. Yuan Shilio was a transcendent realm great perfection. But he was suppressed by Lin Sun in just a few blinks of an eye. This made Yuan Changtian feel uneasy. Now Lin Sun said that he would promote him to deputy pavilion head. How could he not understand that this was a conspiracy? Yuan Changtian took a deep breath and bowed. Brother Lin, I admit defeat. I don't want to be your enemy anymore, and I don't want to fight for the position of Yuan Qing Pavilion Head. Can you let me go? His posture was extremely humble and sincere. Lin Sun sighed. Brother Yuan, you are now a deputy pavilion head. You have a bright future ahead of you. Why do you want to leave like this? Even if I agree, the whole sect won't agree. Rest assured, Brother Yuan. I promise I won't let anything happen to your life. Yuan Changtian's body stiffened. He raised his head with difficulty and said with an uncertain expression, Well, I'll go with Brother Lin. Lin Sun raised his thumb and praised, Smart man. On the same day, Yuan Changtian and Yuan Shilio were suppressed before anyone in Yuan's school noticed. It was also on that day that a vigorous purge began. The third peak. Nan Bohong was sipping tea. Peak Master, Deputy Pavilion Head Xian asks you to go to the Central Hall immediately. A disciple came to deliver the message. Nan Bohong was startled and frowned. What happened? I don't know. Nan Bohong pondered for a moment, then immediately got up and said, Well, I'll go and have a look. A quarter of an hour later, Nan Bohong arrived at the Central Hall. When he walked in, he found that many people were already sitting in the hall. Yuan Qing Pavilion Elder Dong Wang Qing, Yuan Su Pavilion Elder Zhongli Zhanyun, 4th Peak Master Munjing. There were 35 people. Among them, there were 2 Peak Masters, 11 Elders of the 3 pavilions, and 22 Deacons of the 3 pavilions. Including Nan Bohong, there were 36 people. Nan Bohong's heart sank when he saw this scene. He felt that something was wrong, because everyone who was summoned to the Central Hall were all from the 10 immortal giants. Looking at the people who had been summoned like him, all of them had a gloomy look on their faces. May I ask why Deputy Pavilion Head Xian summoned me here? Nan Bohong looked at Xian Fei Ling, who was sitting on the main seat in the center of the hall. Everyone else in the hall also looked over at the same time. Xian Feiling said calmly, "Don't be impatient. We'll talk business when everyone is here." Nan Bo Hong had a bad feeling in his heart, and he promptly decided. "I'm refining a cauldron of medicinal pills, and I'm afraid I'll be delayed. I'll come back and listen to Vice Pavilion Master Xian's guidance in a while." With that, he turned around to leave. In front of the gate, Du Guyong, Fang Daoping, Yu Xing, and Yuan Wutian, the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters, appeared together, blocking the way forward like a wall. Nan Bo Hong's expression changed greatly, and he said angrily, "Vice Pavilion Masters, what are you doing?" Voila! The great figures that had been summoned to the hall stood up as well, and they were both shocked and furious. How could they not see that this was a trap? However, they couldn't figure out why Xian Feiling and the others would launch an attack today. Weren't they worried that it would cause chaos within the sect? I've said it. Everyone, don't be impatient. You'll understand in a moment. Xian Feiling sat on the central seat with an indifferent expression. "No, we're going to see Vice Pavilion Master Fu," Nan Bo Hong shouted. "Yes, we're going to see Vice Pavilion Master Fu." The others also followed suit. Fang Daoping suddenly smiled, and his eyes were subtle. "It's easy to see Fu Wenli. Don't worry, I'll send you there later." As soon as these words came out, Nan Bo Hong and the others felt their blood run cold. They guessed something and exclaimed, "You guys, don't tell me you've already killed Vice Pavilion Master Fu?" "Forget it. Since they're so anxious, let's tell them the truth." Xian Feiling stood up and waved his sleeve. Boom! The gate of the central hall immediately closed. Nan Bo Hong and the others' expressions changed. "It's over." After a cup of tea's time, the gate of the central hall slowly opened. Xian Feiling, Du Guyong, Fang Daoping, and Yu Xing, the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters, walked out one after another. "Everyone, how about we split up?" "Okay. Remember, do not alarm the other inheritors. Otherwise, they will be alarmed and panic will arise. Go." In the blink of an eye, the 4 Deputy Pavilion Masters disappeared. Behind them, the central hall was empty. Nan Bo Hong and the other 36 big shots, who held important positions in Yuan's sect, had all been erased from the world, leaving no trace. 1 hour later, all the members of the 10 immortal giants in the Yuan sect were killed without a sound. Among them were Qi Qingshi, Dong Wang Shaoan, and Mu Zunwu, who joined Yuan's sect at the same time as Lin Sun. It was worth mentioning that after all these years, these people who joined Yuan's sect at the same time as Lin Sun had now grown up, and the weakest one had become a core disciple of the 9 Peak. Qi Qingshi, Dong Wang Shaoan, and Mu Zunwu had already joined the 3 pavilions for cultivation. However, compared with Lin Sun, whose position was continuously promoted, they were much more gloomy. In the evening of the same day, on the huge square in front of the central hall, everyone in the Origin sect was summoned. The elders, deacons, deputy deacons, disciples of the 3 pavilions, the 9 Peaks heads, elders, core disciples, and other disciples gathered together. At this time, people suddenly found that there were a lot less people in the hall. It seems that all the big shots from the 10 immortal giants, whether they are disciples or those big shots, are not here. That's right. It seems that something big has happened. The crowd was talking about it, and they were all surprised. Yu Wuchou, Qin Wuyu, Sang Zhongxue, and other peak heads had vaguely guessed something, and they couldn't hide their surprise. Before long, the 5 Vice Pavilion Masters, Xian Feiling, Du Guyong, Fang Daoping, Yuan Wutian, and Yu Xing, appeared in front of the central hall. What was surprising was that Lin Sun also showed up with these Vice Pavilion Masters. This time, I called everyone here because I have something important to announce. Under the twilight, Xian Feiling's figure was tall and strong, and his deep voice resounded through the hall, making the atmosphere suddenly solemn and quiet. After the discussion with the other Vice Pavilion Masters, From today on, Elder Yuan Changtian will be selected as the Vice Pavilion Master of Yuan Kong Pavilion, taking over the position of Vice Pavilion Master Qi Shaoyun. The first thing that Xian Feiling announced caused a sensation in the hall. What? How could this be? Yuan Changtian is so despicable and shameless. How can he take the position of Vice Pavilion Master? The hall was in an uproar, and many disciples were filled with righteous indignation. Silence! Fang Daoping shouted. Just 2 words were enough to suppress the voices of the audience. Everyone, please listen to me. Xian Feiling said, since Vice Pavilion Master Yuan Changtian is in the process of breaking through the realm, he has no time to attend to other things, so he is now in closed-door training. When he comes out, he will take over the position of Vice Pavilion Master. Everyone was stunned, and vaguely felt that there seemed to be something strange about this matter. Xian Feiling continued, the second thing is that over these years, there have been many sources of trouble in our sect, and they have been eroding the stability of our Yuan sect like malignant tumors. But from today on, you don't have to worry about being disturbed by them anymore. These tumors have been completely removed, and they will never appear again. Boom! The audience was in an uproar, and they finally understood why those figures from the 10 immortal giants didn't show up. It turned out that they had been completely removed. This made them extremely shocked, because the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters, Fu Wenli, Qi Shaoyun, Qi Wen, and Tang Qiu also didn't show up, which undoubtedly meant that even the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters had been removed as malignant tumors. This was too surprising. Some people were shocked, some were wild with joy, and some were trembling in their hearts. When the uproar in the hall gradually subsided, Xian Feiling said, although the malignant tumors have been removed, there are still many vacancies in the sect. The situation this time is different from the past. Next, Vice Pavilion Master Fang Daoping will announce a batch of candidates to temporarily take over these vacancies. Immediately, Fang Daoping walked out and said in a clear voice, Mo Lanshan will be the peak master of the second peak. Mo Lanshan was stunned, and he only managed to suppress his excitement after a while. He cupped his hands and said, I will definitely not let the sect down. Seeing this, the others couldn't help but look forward to it. After those malignant tumors were removed, there would be many vacancies left, and there was no need to worry about no one taking over. Because there were too many people in the Yuan sect who were qualified to take on those positions. For example, the position of Peak Master could be found among the vice deacons of the 3 pavilions. The reason why they didn't take the position before was that they didn't have the opportunity. Chu Jingqi will be the Peak Master of the 3rd peak. Liang Xiao will be the Peak Master of the 4th peak. Following that, Fang Daoping announced one appointment after another. Everyone whose name was called revealed expressions of excitement and joy. Those who were not selected had nothing to say. Because compared with those who were selected, they were indeed slightly inferior, and they had no choice but to accept it. Soon, the vacant positions of peak masters and elders of the 9 peaks were filled one by one. Fang Daoping then announced the selection and appointment of the vice deacons, and elders of the 3 pavilions. In the process, Lin Sun noticed that Lu Yunfeng and Feng Qishi were both selected as vice deacons, and Tao Leng was selected as elder. Qin Wuyu, the peak master of the 9th peak, was also promoted to an elder in the Yuanshu pavilion, and his position as peak master was replaced by others. In any case, Lin Sun was very happy when he saw this scene. When all the vacancies under the vice pavilion master were filled, the atmosphere in the field was extremely heated. In the past, how could there be so many people selected? What was more delightful was that when someone was promoted, the position left by that person would be replaced by someone else. So the number of people who changed their positions this time was astonishing. There are still 3 vacancies among the vice pavilion masters. At this time, Xian Feiling spoke. That one sentence caused the boiling atmosphere to become silent again. Everyone realized that the real highlight of the show was coming. and some smart big shots couldn't help but look at Lin Sun, who was standing beside Xian Failing and others. P.S. Today's outbreak, first send 2 consecutive updates. Around 5 p.m., there will be another 2 consecutive updates. Those who have monthly votes, please smash. Chapter 2985. Sure enough, Xian Failing directly announced, in this operation to clean up the tumor of the sect, Elder Lin Sun has made great contributions. After discussion with other deputy pavilion heads, he will be selected as the deputy pavilion head of Yuankong Pavilion, taking over the position originally held by Rune Li. As soon as he finished speaking, the audience was shocked. Many people were in disbelief. After the Immortal Tao battle ended, Lin Sun was promoted to an elder of Yuankong Pavilion after returning to the sect, taking over the position held by Chao Bei. In less than a month, Lin Sun's position was promoted again, becoming a deputy pavilion head. This promotion speed simply broke all the records since the establishment of Yuan's sect. Xiang Xiayuan, who was now a core disciple of Yuan's sect, Feng Qishi and Lu Yunfeng, who were already deputy deacons, were all amazed at this moment. Lin Sun's current cultivation was powerful, and his status was so high that he had already left them far behind. They couldn't even feel envious or jealous at all, and could only look up to him. Not only them, but even Qin Wuyu, Tao Lung, and other elders of the sect couldn't help but be shocked and sigh. Thinking back to those years, they watched Lin Sun join Yuan's sect. Now, with the passage of time, Lin Sun had begun to take the authority of the deputy pavilion head. Compared to him, their status and position were much lower. Suddenly, someone said in a deep voice, "Deputy Pavilion Head Xian, Elder Lin is only at the early transcendent realm. Among the elders of our 3 pavilions, there are many transcendent realm great perfection. Why don't you choose a deputy pavilion head from these elders?" All of a sudden, all eyes were on that person. Tong Chaoyun, the head of the 9 elders of Yuanshu Pavilion, an existence in the transcendent realm great perfection, and an old monster with extremely long experience. Speaking of which, if it weren't for the limited positions of the 3 deputy pavilion heads, Tong Chaoyun could have been qualified for the position of deputy pavilion head with his qualifications. Xian Failing smiled. "I knew that you, old Tong, would be straightforward and unconvinced. Why don't you have a fight with Lin Sun here?" Tong Chaoyun said unhappily, "I won't bully the weak. You can rest assured that I have no objection to Lin Sun's talent, and I also admire him very much. It's just that his promotion speed is too fast. I'm afraid that it will do more harm than good." The expressions of Fang Daoping, Du Guyong, and the others changed, and they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At present, Lin Sun's combat power was so strong that he could threaten these old guys. How could it be possible to spoil the seedlings through excessive enthusiasm? Xian Failing was also amused. After thinking about it, he directly told Tong Chaoyun that Lin Sun had killed Fu Wenli and the other 3 deputy pavilion head. Instantly, Tong Chaoyun couldn't maintain his composure, and he had an astounded expression on his face. After asking and confirming it over and over again, he finally said with a skeptical expression, "If it's really like that, then I have nothing to say." Everyone present was confused. They did not understand why Tong Chaoyun's attitude had changed so quickly. Unfortunately, be it Xian Failing or Tong Chaoyun, they chose to remain silent. It was because if news of this got out, it would put Lin Sun in the eye of the storm. Once the 10 Undying Giants found out, they would definitely view him as their #1 enemy. On the contrary, hiding the news of Lin Sun's combat strength could be regarded as a trump card to reverse the situation and catch the enemy off guard. At this point, no one questioned or objected. "Congratulations, Deputy Pavilion Master Lin. Congratulations, Deputy Pavilion Master Lin." There was a burst of congratulations in the field, echoing between heaven and earth. Many successors' eyes were fanatical, and their faces were full of admiration and reverence. For them, Lin Sun was simply a legend that could not be replicated, a mythical figure that they could not reach. It had only been a few decades since he entered the sect, but he had been promoted from the most ordinary disciple all the way to the present deputy pavilion head. If this wasn't a legend, what was it? Those old people present were also filled with emotion. Lin Sun's rapid rise had also made them feel pressure and shock. Now, there was only admiration in their hearts. They felt powerless to be jealous and envious. After all, they might not be able to catch up with such a legendary figure in their lifetime. At this point, Lin Sun naturally became the deputy pavilion head of Yuan Kong Pavilion. He was only one step away from the position of pavilion head. And now, there were still nearly 80 years to go before Yu Beihai proved the eternal way. Next, Xian Feiling announced the appointment of the other two deputy pavilion heads. Tong Chaoyun would take over the position of deputy pavilion head of Yuan Su Pavilion, and another old monster, Zhang Qianxi, who was no less experienced than Tong Chaoyun, would be the deputy pavilion head of Yuan Qing Pavilion. They would take over the authority originally held by Qi Wen and Tang Qiu respectively. After announcing this series of appointments, Xian Feiling said in a low voice, "Because the sect needs to be reorganized, from today on, no one is allowed to go out without our permission." The scene suddenly became silent. No one present was stupid. From so many things that had happened today, they had realized many problems. For example, once the news that the top 10 immortal overlords led by Fu Wenli and others were completely eliminated, it would definitely cause a great shock in the world. At that time, how could the top 10 immortal overlords let it go? Seeing that the crowd was about to disperse, Lin Sun suddenly said, "I have something to announce. Those who have reached the Nirvana realm, please stay." Everyone was stunned. Even Xian Feiling couldn't help looking at Lin Sun, not knowing what he was going to do. After thinking for a while, Xian Feiling said, "As you said, those who have reached the Nirvana realm can stay. The others can leave now." Soon, there were only about 100 people left. Among them, the deacons and elders from the 3 pavilions accounted for 80%, and the 9 peak heads and elders accounted for 20%. The weakest was at the early stage of the Nirvana realm, and the strongest was at the peak Nirvana realm. Lin Sun has obtained a lot of order power in the 10 demonic territory. I plan to take this opportunity to give these treasures to you. As soon as Lin Sun said this, all the Nirvana realm overlords present were surprised. It seemed that they didn't expect that Lin Sun would distribute benefits to them as soon as he became the deputy pavilion head. Was he trying to win people's hearts? Deputy Pavilion Head Lin, it's not easy for you to collect the order power. We don't dare to accept such benefit. Someone said loudly. Yes, there are more than 100 disciples here. If all of them received such treasures, I'm afraid that Deputy Pavilion Head Lin's wealth will be emptied. Someone said with a smile, causing a burst of laughter. Seeing this, Fang Daoping and Li Zhen's expressions became strange. These guys probably didn't know how rich Lin Sun's wealth was. But Lin Sun smiled and waved his sleeve. Swooshed, an expanse of the energy of order that piled up like a mountain surged into appearance. It was multicolored and suffused with a completely different and profound aura, and it dyed this expanse of the heavens and the earth in a gorgeous and multicolored sheen. The laughter stopped abruptly. Those Nirvana realm overlords widened their eyes and were dumbfounded. So many. At least thousands of them. Xian Feiling, De Guyong, and the others didn't know this. At this moment, they were stunned and their hearts were in turmoil. In the eternal world, if one wanted to find a single order power, they would have to go through a lot of hardships, and sometimes they would even have to rely on luck. But Lin Sun gave out thousands of order power at once. This was simply equivalent to smashing an unparalleled fortune right in front of everyone. The visual impact of this was not ordinary. These are the order power below the 6th grade of the heaven rank. There are more than 3,300 of them. All of them are damaged and can't be comprehended, but they are immeasurable benefits to the cultivation of the early stage of the Nirvana realm. Lin Sun said and looked at Li Zhen. Elder Li Zhen, how about distributing these treasures? Yes. Li Zhen accepted the order solemnly. All of a sudden, those Nirvana realm overlords became excited. They cupped their hands and bowed in unison. Thank you, Deputy Pavilion Master Lin, for the reward. Their voices shook the sky. Then, can we also receive it? Some Nirvana realm and Nirvana realm overlords were envious. They disregarded their dignity and demeanor and looked at Lin Sun expectantly like young birds waiting to be fed. Fang Daoping couldn't help but tease. Now, don't you all say that you don't deserve a reward without doing anything? Everyone was embarrassed and extremely embarrassed. It couldn't be helped. For them, the order power was a peerless treasure that could improve their cultivation. Moreover, it was such a huge amount of order power that they couldn't control themselves. Lin Sun smiled and waved his sleeve. Swoosh, another small hill of order power appeared out of thin air. It was dazzling and flowed with a tempting luster that could dazzle any Nirvana realm overlord. Everyone noticed that these order power were treasures between the 6th and 9th grade of the Earth rank. They were rarer and more precious. Seeing this, the Nirvana realm overlord who was worried that Lin Sun would use up all his wealth was stunned and shouted, "I've changed my mind. I'm willing to be bought by Deputy Pavilion Master Lin. No one can stop me." Everyone burst into laughter. However, their eyes were also burning with excitement. This scene made Xian Failing and others envious. These guys were so lucky to meet Lin Sun, who was so rich. When they were in the Nirvana realm, they had to spend a lot of time and effort in order to collect a piece of order power. There are more than 2,000 pieces of order power. Deputy Pavilion Master Fang, how about distributing them? Lin Sun looked at Fang Daoping. Wow, you started to order me around on the first day you became a Deputy Pavilion Master? Fang Daoping glared at him, but he still agreed with a smile. How could he not see that Lin Sun intended to use these order power to improve the strength of the backbone forces of the sect as soon as possible? It could be said that Lin Sun was willing to take out these treasures, which moved these old monsters and made them sigh with emotion. There was no doubt that Lin Sun really regarded the sect as his home. Thank you, Deputy Pavilion Master Lin. All the overlords at the middle and late stage of Nirvana realms saluted and thanked him, all excited and happy. Was this a bribe? But who would be stupid enough to buy people's hearts with so many treasures? If it was really a bribe, they would rather be bribed. Just when everyone thought that the distribution of benefits was about to end, they saw Lin Sun waving his sleeve. A dense wave of order energy once again appeared in their vision. All of a sudden, everyone could not calm down. Chapter 2986. This time, Lin Sun took out very little order energy. However, this little was only relative. When they saw more than 100 heaven-level orders appearing densely in their field of vision, even Xian Failing and the others gasped, let alone the Nirvana realm powerhouses. Heaven-level order. This was a peerless treasure that the Earth-level order could not compare to. A heaven-level first-level order was worth nearly 100 Earth-level ninth-level orders. And now, Lin Sun took out more than 100. This scene not only happened in Yuan sect, but also in the Witchcraft sect, Zen sect, and other God clan forces in the ninth heaven. It would definitely cause a great sensation. The scene was silent for a while. Lin Sun took out more than 3,000 Earth-level order energy for the first time. The second time, he took out more than 1,000 Earth-level order energy for the 6th to 9th level. Although there were only 100 of them this time, they were all heaven-level order energy. Their value was far greater than the previous 2 times. At this time, no one dared to say that they were worried about Lin Sun's wealth. That would be a joke. In the silence, Lin Sun said, "In the future, anyone who has the opportunity to ascend to the transcendent realm will be able to receive these heaven-level order energy." The crowd was in an uproar and everyone's eyes lit up. Lin Sun looked at Xian Failing and smiled. "Senior, How about you keep these heaven-level orders? Xian Feiling smiled and said, Everyone, look, it's Deputy Pavilion Master Lin's first day in office, and he's giving out treasures and ordering old bones like us around. He's really treating us like outsiders. Everyone laughed. After experiencing this, people couldn't help but respect Lin Sun, and they couldn't help but feel a sense of closeness. Everyone knew that with Lin Sun's current foundation, as long as he was given some time, he would sooner or later go further on the road of Tao. And with his guidance, Yuan sect wouldn't have to worry about not being able to restore its former glory in the future. Soon, the Nirvana realm powerhouses dispersed one after another. In front of the central hall, only the 8 deputy pavilion masters were left. Among them, Lin Sun, Tong Chaoyun, and Zhang Qianxi had just been promoted to deputy pavilion masters today, respectively taking over the authority originally held by Fu Wenli, Qi Wen, and Tang Qiu. As for the imprisoned Yuan Changtian, he had been given the title of vice pavilion master, but everyone knew that it was just a show for the Genji divine clan. Lin Sun, I received word yesterday that important figures from the Eternal God races Wen clan and Song clan will pay a visit to our sect in a month's time. They specifically asked to see you. What do you think? Xian Feiling talked about business and looked at Lin Sun. Are they planning to take this opportunity to stir up trouble? Lin Sun was surprised. After all, our primordial realm has the protection of divine-level power of order. Even if an eternal figure were to come, they wouldn't dare to act rashly. Xian Feiling said in a low voice, As for why they want to see you, even I don't know. Lin Sun said, Well, I'll go with you to meet them and see what they want to do. Old Feng, Yuan Changtian, and Yuan Shiliu's imprisonment will definitely attract the attention of the God race's Yuanshi clan. If they send someone to ask about this, just tell them what we discussed earlier. Xian Feiling looked at Feng Daoping and instructed him. Feng Daoping nodded. The news of Yuan Changtian and Yuan Shiliu's imprisonment was only known by the deputy pavilion masters in the entire Yuan sect, so they wouldn't leak the news. Moreover, in name, Yuan Changtian was already the deputy pavilion master of the Yuan sect. This news would soon spread throughout the 4 ancestral halls and be known by countless major forces. Under such circumstances, the God race's Yuanshi clan would have no excuse to cause trouble. If I'm not wrong, today's purge won't be kept a secret for long. Once the 10 immortal giants learn of this, they will definitely be furious. Xian Feiling's eyes were like cold lightning. However, even if they have the guts, they won't dare to cause trouble in our Yuan sect. The only thing we have to worry about is that these giants will do something else. Everyone's heart trembled. Behind some of the important figures in the Yuan sect were their own clans and relatives. For example, behind Dugu Yong was the Dugu clan, the strongest immortal emperor clan in the 7th heaven. In the past, with Dugu Yong around, no one in the entire eternal world dared to offend the Dugu clan. But it was different now. Once the 10 immortal giants were enraged and attacked the Dugu clan, using the Dugu clan's life to threaten Dugu Yong, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the entire Yuan sect, there were many similar examples. Therefore, when Xian Feiling said these words, everyone present realized the seriousness of the problem. They were in the Yuan sect, so they were naturally not afraid of the 10 immortal giants attacking them. However, the clans behind them would most likely become the targets of the 10 immortal giants. What we need to do next is to eliminate these hidden dangers before the 10 immortal giants react. Xian Feiling made a decision and began to issue orders. The 4 deputy pavilion masters, Feng Daoping, Yu Xing, Tong Chaoyun, and Zhang Qianxi, were in charge of this matter. Each of them led the elders, deacons, and deputy deacons of the Yuan sect. All the clans behind the descendants of the Yuan sect had to move their clans to the Yuan realm within 7 days. When the situation became peaceful, these clans would be allowed to move again. This task was very heavy, because the big figures in the Yuan sect had many clans behind them, scattered in the 7th and 6th heaven. To move all the clans to the Yuan realm within 7 days, one could imagine how great the pressure was. But this matter had to be done immediately. Otherwise, once these clans were attacked by enemies, the big figures in the Yuan sect would definitely be threatened and unable to sit or sleep in peace. Fortunately, it was easy to relocate a clan. One only needed to store all the clansmen of the clan into treasures and bring them back. And the price that these clans had to pay was the territory that they owned. An immortal emperor clan had many forces under them, and their roots were intertwined. Once the entire clan moved, the power and territory they had operated for countless years would naturally disappear. The price was not small. But compared to this price, everyone understood that in such a situation, the survival of the entire clan was more important. Brother Dugu, Brother Yuan. Xian Feiling looked at Dugu Yong and Yuan Wuxian. For the past 10,000 years, the divine order power of the sect has been controlled by the three of us. In other words, for the next period of time, the three of us must stay in the sect to prevent any danger from happening. Dugu Yong and Yuan Wuxian nodded. Xian Feiling smiled and said, "But you don't have to worry. I've decided to let Lin Sun personally go to the 7th heaven to bring the clans behind you back to the Yuan realm. What do you think, Lin Sun?" Lin Sun was startled and immediately agreed, "Yes." Dugu Yong and Yuan Wuxian were obviously relieved, and their expressions relaxed. They were also worried about what to do with the clans behind them. But now, if Lin Sun went personally, this problem would definitely be solved. After all, with Lin Sun's current cultivation, no one in this world could be his opponent unless someone in the eternal realm took action. To some extent, today's Lin Sun could be called the first person under the eternal realm. Dugu Yong said gently, "Lin Sun, when you leave, you can take Yuan with you. With her leading the way, it will make it more convenient for you to act." Dugu Yuan Lin Sun couldn't help but think of a beautiful figure in his mind. She is still in the sect now? Lin Sun was surprised. This girl has been cultivating with me all the time. She should still be in closed-door training. Dugu Yong's eyes were a little subtle, and he said, "But when you leave, I will let her go with you." Lin Sun nodded and suddenly realized why Dugu Yuan was nowhere to be seen when he summoned all the people in the sect to announce the matter. It turned out that she was in closed-door training. "Lin Sun, take this token," Yuan Wutian said and handed a token to Lin Sun. As Yuan Wutian spoke, he handed a token to Lin Sun. "Wait for my Yuan clan. You only need to take out this token, and they will naturally obey your orders." Lin Sun immediately reached out and took it and said with a smile, "Speaking of which, Miss Yuan Qingheng and I can be considered friends. This time I will go to visit her." Yuan Qingheng. This woman once appeared in the ancient Desolation Realm's Dark Parasol Divine Mountain, and the two fought for the sole primordial root of the Dark Parasol Divine Tree. Later, Yuan Qingheng took the initiative to give in and told Lin Sun some very valuable things. For example, some overview of the Eternal Realm and how to go to the Eternal Realm. For example, the division of the power of order, and the situation of the Luo family. When Lin Sun planned to leave for the vast Thousand Battles realm, Yuan Qingheng even left a green sparrow behind to guide Lin Sun. Although the green sparrow was a little arrogant, she did give Lin Sun many pointers and reminders after he entered the vast Thousand Battles realm. Only when he reached Chaotian city of the vast Thousand Battles realm did he separate from the green sparrow because of the shocking battle in the God's Relic. It could be said that in the years before he reached the Eternal Realm, Yuan Qingheng had given him a lot of help. Seeing that Lin Sun actually knew Yuan Qingheng, Yuan Wutian was startled and could not help but tease, "Lin Sun, you are now the deputy pavilion master of Yuan clan. You have a high position and a high status, so you can't have any ideas about my Qingheng. Otherwise, you will be my great-grandson." Lin Sun was speechless. Dugu Yuan is Brother Dugu's grandniece, and she is also Lin Sun's good friend. My great-grandson Xian Juyin is also Lin Sun's good friend. If we really care about seniority, it will be a complete mess, ha ha ha. Xian Feiling laughed. Everyone present also laughed. For cultivators, the stronger one was, the higher one's status would be, and the higher one's seniority would be. Now, Lin Sun could already be on equal footing with these old monsters. If they really cared about seniority, it would indeed be a mess. Of course, no one would care about this. Everyone followed the principle of 4 words. Do your own thing. Xian Feiling said, Lin Sun, the 7th heaven is not too far away. If things go smoothly, you can return in 3 days. However, before you leave Yuan Clan, go to the Carefree Cave, the forbidden area of Primary Sky Mountain. Pavilion Master Yen Ji is looking for you. P.S. 3rd and 4th chapter sent. Around 9 p.m., I will try to make 2 consecutive chapters. Chapter 2987. In the Xiaoyao Cave. The place where Yen Ji, the head of the Yuankong Pavilion, practiced was actually a secret realm comparable to a small world. The entrance was opened halfway up a sacred mountain. When Lin Sun arrived, a low and majestic voice came from the entrance. The restriction has been removed. The restriction has been removed. Come in. Lin Sun immediately stepped into it. In an instant, the scene in front of him changed, and he appeared in a quiet and peaceful world. Green bamboo forests were planted all over the mountains and field. Here, beside a gurgling stream, there was a green bamboo forest. A thin figure was sitting cross-legged. When Lin Sun appeared, the thin figure spoke softly. A moment later, Lin Sun moved through the void and arrived. In the bamboo forest, the thin figure was fishing by the stream with a fishing rod in his hand. Lin Sun floated down and saluted, Greetings, senior. As he spoke, he glanced around and saw only Yen Ji here. Are you looking for Kong Ju? He just left yesterday. Yen Ji was thin and dressed in a gray robe. He looked calm and gentle, like a fisherman who was indifferent to fame and fortune and lived in seclusion. Lin Sun was surprised. Where did Martial Uncle go? I don't know. Yen Ji shook the fishing rod, and a fat cyan-scaled fish was caught and fell into the fish basket in front of Kong Ju. He put down the fishing rod, picked up the fish basket, and walked into the depths of the bamboo forest. Come with me. You are now the deputy head of the Yuankong Pavilion. It's time for you to know something. Lin Sun immediately followed. In the depths of the bamboo forest, there was a simple and elegant bamboo house made of bamboo. In front of the bamboo house was a courtyard. Yen Ji made a bonfire and cleaned the cyan-scaled fish. Then, he skewered the fish on bamboo sticks and put it on the bonfire to roast. Take a seat. Before eating, I will talk to you about the origin of the 4 ancestral halls and some past events related to your master, the master of the square inch. Yen Ji took out some bottles and cans of seasoning and began to smear them on the roasted fish. But Lin Sun was shocked. He immediately sat cross-legged on one side and said, I'm listening. The founders of the 4 great ancestral halls do not belong to this era. They have their own origins as they walk through the changing of eras. Yen Ji said, the founder of the Yuan sect came from the Kunlun ruins. He called himself primordial. He traveled through many eras and was used to the changes in the world. Kunlun ruins, one of the 4 great Dao ruins? Lin was shocked. Not bad. Yen Ji said, even though the Kunlun ruins have been desolate for a long time, every time an era is destroyed, the powerhouses of the various worlds that try to survive the great calamity will seek an opportunity in the Kunlun ruins. What opportunity? An opportunity to head to the ruins of Dao. Because only by entering the ruins of profundity of Dao would one truly be unafraid of the danger of the era obliteration. Otherwise, even an eternal realm expert would suffer an unimaginable calamity every single time an era obliteration arrived. Yen Ji's answer shocked Lin Sun. He blurted out, Senior, are you talking about the Great Silence fatal disaster? In the ruins of fate, Lin Sun had heard about the Great Silence fatal disaster from Chun Linkong. It was said that this disaster came from the mastermind behind the era obliteration. A long time ago, the Eternal Night Emperor was also attacked by this disaster, so that he was trapped in the flowing light forbidden area. Yanji was surprised. He glanced at Lin Sun and said, "Yes, for all living beings in the world, no one can escape the attack of the 5 decay tribulations. For the Eternal Realm experts, the Great Silence fatal disaster is the most fatal. Even if it can be resolved this time, when the next era obliteration arrives, they will be attacked by the Great Silence fatal disaster again, and its power will be stronger than the last time." Lin Sun said, "So, only when we reach the ruins of profundity of Tao can we be truly fearless of this disaster? That should be the case." Yen Ji said, "The master of Yuan sect has experienced 18 eras and overcame 18 Great Silence fatal disasters. It's obvious how formidable his strength is. But this time, he had a premonition that it would be very difficult for him to go against the Great Silence fatal disaster with his strength when the calamity of an era erupted once more. So, he left the sect in the name of wandering the world many years ago, but in fact, he went to look for clues to head to the ruins of profundity in advance." "I see." Lin Sun came to a sudden understanding. He recalled that when he parted ways with Chun Linkong in the ruins of fate, the latter had decided to head to the ruins of profundity of Tao as well. In this way, all the big shots of the eras had taken the ruins of profundity to be a place that could resolve the Great Silence fatal disaster. After that, Lin Sun thought of the Divine City of Fate. The Divine City of Fate was protected by the river diagram, and it could similarly offset the attacks of the Great Silence fatal disaster. However, it was only temporary in the end. For example, the master of Yuan sect had overcome 18 such disasters, and the reason he'd headed to the ruins of profundity was probably because he intended to find a way to deal with the danger of the Great Silence fatal disaster once and for all. As Lin Sun pondered, Yen Ji spoke once more. "The Shaman sect's master is called Heaven Shaman, the Zen sect's Dharma name is Sure, and the Spirit sect's Taoist name is Void Concealment. Just like the Origin sect's master, Yuan Chu, they're all almighty figures that have walked through numerous eras. There are many different opinions about their origins, but it's certain that they've entered the Kunlun ruins and traveled through the ruins of fate. Moreover, just like the Origin sect's master, these 3 masters of the ancestral court left a long time ago, and their objectives were related to the ruins of profundity. The 4 founding ancestors left in advance together, and this obviously shows how unusual the calamity that will bring about the end of an era this time is, and it's bound to be different from the past. Otherwise, it would be absolutely impossible for big shots like them to take action in advance." Lin Sun gasped when he heard this, and he said, "Supposedly, the calamity that will bring about the end of an era this time will descend within 1,000 years. Yen Ji said, "That's right, so in recent years, the eternal gods in the 9th heaven have also begun to make preparations. If there's nothing urgent, no eternal realm existence will leave the 9th heaven." After a pause, he continued, "Because only the 9th heaven is the true eternal land, and it has survived through the destruction of many eras until now. However, the calamity that will bring about the end of an era this time is different from the past, and even the eternal gods dare not take it lightly." Lin Sun said thoughtfully, "So, in recent years, even if the 10 immortal giants are in danger of being destroyed, it's difficult for them to ask for help from eternal realm figures?" Yenji said, "You can understand it that way. However, the 10 immortal giants have served some gods in the 9th heaven for many years, and they still have some trump cards in their hands, such as the will of the eternal realm." Lin Sun's pupils narrowed. With a sizzling sound, Yen Ji picked up the grilled fish on the bonfire, and an alluring aroma filled the air. He stretched out his hand and handed half of the whole grilled fish to Lin Sun. He picked up the remaining half and took a big bite. He ate to the point his mouth was covered in oil, and he couldn't help but reveal a wisp of intoxication. The taste of fish raised with divine spring and over 100 divine materials really is different. Lin soon couldn't help but take a bite, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He praised, "It's delicious. This grilled fish was absolutely the best in the world. Eat more if you like it." Yen Ji smiled, took out the wine gourd and ate the meat and drank the wine. After he finished the fish, he finally said, "Kong Ju and I analyzed it. Your master, the core master, should have been searching for the ruins of profundity in the past few years. It's even to the extent that we suspect that your master has probably entered the ruins of profundity. Otherwise, it's impossible for there to be no news of him until now." Lin Sun said, "Is there any other possibility?" He didn't believe that his master would just leave them, his successors, behind like this. Yen Ji smiled meaningfully. "Lin Sun, your master has been waiting for a long time. Finally, a person came. What do you think he is going to do if he stays?" Lin Sun frowned. He had never thought about this question. Yen Ji said softly, "Since you have the potential of the immortal supreme, you should bear the heavy responsibility. If everything in this world is done by your master, what's the use of descendants like you? How can you, the descendants of the heart core, surpass your master in the future?" After a pause, he continued, "What's more, your master comes from the ultimate. As one of the 4 great ruins of Tao, the wonders of that place are no less than those of the other 3 great ruins of Tao. Your martial uncle Kong Ju once said that your master was just like the founding ancestors of the 4 great ancestral halls, and he was definitely a terrifying existence that had traversed through numerous eras. His true body had only appeared for a period of time at the very beginning of the primeval times, and since then until now, no one in this world has seen your master's true body." Lin Sun's expression flickered. He remembered that in the past, what he saw was indeed only the will left by his master. Until now, even Ruosu and the others had not seen the real body of his master. Those who don't plan for eternity can't plan for a moment. Those who don't plan for the overall situation can't plan for a region. In the countless years of the past, even though your master is elusive, he's already paved the path for all of you heirs. No matter if it's the eternal exalt Dao path that belongs to you or the grand Daos of the other heirs, all of them have your master's contributions. Speaking of this, Yen Ji couldn't help sighing with emotion and said with admiration, "The Great Way is invisible but omnipresent. Isn't the master of the heart core the same?" Lin Sun sighed and said, "But for countless years, many descendants of the mountain of heart core have fallen." He thought of Guyupu, the 9th senior brother, Xian Kong, and other descendants of the heart core who had fallen. Yen Ji said, "Look at the whole world. Which force has no descendants of casualties? This is the impermanence of life and death in the world." Lin Sun shook his head and said, "Senior, you misunderstood me. I won't blame my master. I'm just thinking that since my master is so powerful, why hasn't he shown his real body for countless years? There must be a reason." Yen Ji said softly, "Your martial uncle Kong Ju also said so. Maybe when you meet one day, you will naturally know the answer." Lin Sun nodded. Like other descendants of the heart core, he had been waiting for the day to meet his master. Chapter 2988. Next, Yen Ji talked about the Yuan sect. In the past, the Yuan sect had a good relationship with the Ju clan and the Yi clan of the 9th heaven. Every once in a while, the Yuan sect would select some dazzling characters to go to the 9th heaven for cultivation. Most of these powerhouses have become important figures in the Ju clan and the Yi clan. However, in the past 10,000 years, with the departure of the sect leader, we have very little contact with the 2 god clans. Therefore, even if the Yuan Church is in trouble now, we can't count on the 2 god clans to help us. The situation of the witchcraft cult, the Zen cult, and the spirit cult is similar. However, as I said before, within 1,000 years, the great era calamity will descend. The eternal gods of the ninth heaven are destined to be unable to fend for themselves. Unless something happens that threatens their clan, I'm afraid that in the next few years, they will not participate in the matters outside the ninth heaven. Of course, nothing is absolute. No one can predict what will happen in the next few years. So, in the future, it's never wrong to be more careful. Then, Yenji took out a sword-shaped jade talisman and handed it to Lin. This is what your martial uncle Kong Ju left for you. You can use it when you encounter a danger you can't resolve. Well? Lin Sun asked. Yes. Yenji nodded. Lin Sun suddenly thought of something. Senior, have you recovered your Taoist injury? Yenji revealed a smile and said, I only need an opportunity to break through the window paper to achieve eternity. Lin Sun immediately understood and cupped his hands. Then I wish you the eternal Tao in advance. Yenji smiled and waved his hand. Go ahead. Yes. Lin Sun took the order and left. Sky Origin Pavilion. Senior, please hand the power of order over to Xian Juyin and Miss Xianyu. Lin Sun handed over a batch of order power that he had prepared earlier to Xian Failing. These order energies were both earth rank and heaven rank, so their value was naturally incomparably precious. They haven't proven their Tao to be undying yet, so how could they possibly have any use for these? Xian Failing let out a long sigh. Compared with Lin Sun, his great-grandson Xian Juyin was simply a fool. He was still lingering in the ancestor realm of Ju Xie. It will come in handy in the future, Lin Sun said with a smile. Xian Failing said, You're not going to meet them? After I've settled the matters of the Yuan clan and the Duga clan, I'll have a good reunion with them. Lin Sun said. All right. Xian Failing nodded in agreement. When you come back, you can go and comprehend our sect's divine-level sequence power. As a deputy pavilion master, the treatment he enjoyed was naturally incomparable to others. He could read the ancient books in the Book Mountain at will, and he could comprehend the Origin Church's divine-level order power. The authority he held was also extraordinary. For example, Lin Sun could now dispatch a group of elders, deacons, and deputy deacons of Yuankong Pavilion to work for him at will. Soon, Lin Sun left. Many things happened in the Yuan sect today. First, the sect's internal troubles were cleared, and then Xian Failing and the other deputy pavilion masters announced a series of personnel appointments. After that, the deputy pavilion masters made various decisions. For example, how to deal with the threat of the 10 undying giants, how to stall for time with the god race Minamoto clan, etc. Lin Sun had been appointed as the vice pavilion master of the Origin Sky Pavilion. He had met Yenji and learned about the past of the founders of the 4 ancestral courts and the master of the Heart Core. And today, he would immediately set off for the 7th heaven, in front of the ancient teleportation array. Lin Sun didn't wait long before he saw a beautiful figure flying over from the void in the distance. She wore a long green dress and had picturesque features. It was Dugu Yuran. Miss Yuran, long time no see. Lin Sun greeted her with a smile. In the past few years, he was either wandering in the ruins of fortune or participating in the immortal Tao battle in the 10 devil territories. He spent very little time in the Yuan sect. Over the years, he had only seen Xian Juyin and Jintian Xianyue a few times, let alone Dugu Yuran. Dugu Yuran floated to the ground and came in front of Lin Sun. Her beautiful eyes were watery, and her pearly white teeth were slightly exposed. She smiled and bowed. Dugu Yuran greets Deputy Pavilion Master Lin. Lin Sun smiled. There's no need to be so polite between us. Just call me Lin Sun like before. Dugu Yuran blinked her eyes and said in a clear voice, How can I do that? My granduncle said that your identity is different now, so I must be respectful to you. Lin Sun was speechless for a while and said with a wry smile, Well, your granduncle is your granduncle, and you are you. Let's go our separate ways. Really? Dugu Yuran said. Of course, Lin Sun said with a smile. Duguyuran looked Lin Sun up and down with her beautiful eyes and said, I thought you had completely changed after you became the deputy pavilion master. Lin Sun pointed to his heart and said, On the road of Tao, one should sharpen one's cultivation and never forget one's original intention. Duguyuran burst into laughter and said, You still have original intention? You used to hate me bothering you the most. Every time you saw me, you looked as if you had seen a plague. Lin Sun couldn't help but recall the past. In the Kiliakazam battle territory, the relationship between him and Duguyuran was indeed very special. Obviously, they were not so familiar, but they had many interactions. He regarded her as a troublemaker, but she insisted on competing with him. Now thinking of these things, Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh with emotion. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Sun said, When I joined you on sect, I used to. Duguyuran seemed to know what Lin Sun was going to say. Before he finished, she interrupted him. Do you want to talk about the cloud curtain? I never really cared about it. Really? Lin Sun asked. Of course. Duguyuran's charming face was beautiful. Lin Sun relaxed and said, Let's talk while we walk. I don't dare to disobey Deputy Pavilion Master Lin. Duguyuran said. Lin Sun smiled and shook his head. Buzz, not long after, a ripple appeared in the transmission ancient formation, and Lin Sun and Duguyuran disappeared. Ziwei Star Zone. The seventh heaven was one of the 4 major star zones. In Ziwei Star Zone there were 3 12 caves, namely Xuanji Cave, Yaoguang Cave, and Mizar Cave. Dugu family of the immortal emperor lived in Xuanji Cave. Half a day later, Lin Sun appeared in the area where Ziwei Star Zone was located with Duguyuran. In front of us is the Thousand Wine City, which includes thousands of top restaurants in the seventh heaven. Each restaurant has a unique divine wine. For countless years, it has attracted countless drinkers to gather here. Duguyuran pointed to the distance and said excitedly, Do you want to take this opportunity to go there? Anyway, it won't take much time. It's great to buy some wine and drink it on the way. Lin Sun smiled bitterly. Undoubtedly, Duguyuran regarded this action as a leisure trip. After thinking about it, he nodded and said, 2 hours at most. Duguyuran readily agreed, I'll listen to you. Soon, the 2 figures appeared in a huge and towering ancient city. The city was bustling and noisy, with endless streams of carriages and tourists. Shouts rose and fell one after another in an endless stream. All kinds of people in the world, the turbid waves of the mortal world, all appeared in front of them. Lin Sun couldn't help but be in a trance for a while. How many years has it been since he walked so comfortably and calmly in such a bustling place? Along the way, Duguyuran was familiar with the way. She led Lin Sun through the streets and alleys, and her beautiful white face was full of joy. The road of cultivation is difficult. Some people are greedy for the joys and sorrows of the mortal world, while some people only love to live in seclusion and concentrate on enlightenment. Although there are great differences between leaving the mortal world and entering the mortal world, they are both cultivation on the big road. This is Qingfu Building, a winery with 100,000 years of inheritance. It is rich in a kind of divine wine called Qingfu Drunk, which tastes wonderful. Look here, the ancestor of the owner of this building was a renowned winemaker. The name Butterfly Lover's Flower that they sell seems to be gentle, but it's actually very spicy, like a knife entering the throat, and it's the most satisfying. And this restaurant is also amazing. Walking in the bustling streets and alleys, Duguyuran was so familiar with all kinds of restaurants that Lin Sun couldn't help but widen his horizons. As a result, along the way, they went in and out of many restaurants and bought all kinds of divine wine, spending money like running water. Of course, Lin Sun was not short of money at all. Time passed quickly, and more than 2 hours had passed. Just when Lin Sun was thinking about leaving, Duguyuran suddenly stopped and said, Tianqin. Not far away, a handsome young man was walking through the crowd. Hearing this, he turned his head. When he saw Duguyuran, The young man looked surprised and said, Sister Yuan, aren't you cultivating in Yuan sect? Why are you back? Why can't I come back? Dugu Yuan glanced at the young man. Tianqin, what are you going to do in such a hurry? The clan has just sent an order to our clansmen scattered all over the Ziwei Star Zone to return to the clan through the transmission formation as soon as possible. The young man named Dugu Tianqin said quickly. Dugu Yuan suddenly understood. I see. It should be my granduncle who sent the message to the clan in advance. The granduncle she mentioned was naturally Dugu Yong. Lin Sun couldn't help asking, is there a transmission formation to the Dugu clan in this city? Dugu Yuan blinked her eyes. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Dugu Tianqin smiled and said, Friend, you are a little ignorant. In the Ziwei galaxy, every city has a teleportation formation that leads to the Dugu clan. As long as the clan gives the order, no matter where they are in the Ziwei galaxy, they can reach the clan in an instant. The look in Lin Sun's eyes suddenly became strange. That was to say, after entering the Ziwei Star Zone, they could directly use the ancient transmission formation to reach the Dugu clan, but Dugu Yuan had been leading him around blindly. Dugu Yuan glared at Dugu Tianqin and said angrily, Shut up! You have no right to speak here. She pretended to be calm and didn't look at Lin Sun's eyes, but she couldn't help feeling a little guilty. Before, she just wanted to take Lin Sun around, so she deliberately concealed the matter of the transmission formation. P.S. Thank you, Awadara, for your gifts. Thank you for your monthly tickets. There will be the 7th update tonight. Goldfish should be finished around 11 o'clock. Chapter 2989. Lin Sun didn't care about this. His mood was ruined, so Dugu Yuan lost interest in shopping. He said listlessly, Tianqin, take us to the stronghold of our clan. Let's go back to Xuanji Cave Heaven together. Dugu Tianqin led the way with a smile. The stronghold of Dugu family was located in the southwest area of Thousand Brewing City, which was easy to find. It was sparsely populated and full of magnificent ancient buildings. Among them, there was a building that was the most eye-catching. It was the stronghold that the Dugu clan had set up in the city. Huh? Where are the guards at the gate? Dugu Tianqin couldn't help but be startled as he led Lin Sun and Dugu Yuan out. The guards who were usually stationed outside the gate were nowhere to be found. Is something wrong? Dugu Yuan asked. Let's go in and have a look. Lin Sun said and stepped into the hall. Sister Yuan, who is this guy? Why is he so arrogant? Dugu Tianqin raised his eyebrows and asked. Deputy head of Yuan Church. Dugu Yuan said as he followed after them. Deputy head of Yuan Church? Dugu Tianqin was startled. Soon after, he sneered. In a place like the Yuan sect, the deputy pavilion master was a supreme figure who was like an overlord. How could he be so young? How could such an existence have the leisure to accompany cousin to go shopping? Dugu Tianqin walked into the hall as he thought. The space in the hall was so vast that it was comparable to a giant square. There was an ancient transmission formation in the center. When Lin Sun appeared, he saw more than 20 figures standing near the transmission formation, including men and women, old and young. They were all clansmen of Dugu family. But when they saw Dugu Yuan and Dugu Tianqin, the expressions of those clansmen of the Dugu clan changed abruptly. Someone shouted at the first time, Yuan Tianqin, go! He looked anxious. Just as the voice sounded, the gate of the hall was closed. Then, a group of figures rushed out from the side halls on both sides of the hall. Each of them was aggressive. As soon as they rushed out, the killing intent they released swept towards Lin Sun and his companions overwhelmingly. The leader of this group was a purple-robed middle-aged man. His cultivation was also the most tyrannical. He was in existence at the great circle of the heavenly longevity realm. The middle-aged man was first stunned when he saw Dugu Yuan, and then he said with a face full of smiles, Haha, so it's young Miss Yuan. Aren't you cultivating in the Yuan sect? Why have you suddenly returned? Who are you? Dugu Yorong frowned. Dugu Tianqin said with an ugly expression. They are from the Yun family, and their leader is Yun Xiao Hongyun, Yun Muja's uncle. The Yun family. Dugu Yuran seemed to realize what had happened, and her pretty face turned cold. What are you doing? The smile on the face of the violet-robed middle-aged man, Yun Xiaohong, vanished. His countenance was filled with imposingness as he spoke. We are acting on the orders of the Donghuang clan. This time around, we are going to capture everyone from the Dugu clan. Just you guys? Dugu Yuran revealed a look of disdain. Yun Xiaohong, however, was not angered. His expression was playful as he said, Miss Yuran, now that things have come to this, I won't hide it from you. Other than our Yun family, there's also the Nan family, Gu family, and Li family who want to deal with your Dugu family. Do you think that we won't be able to take down your Dugu clan? Dugu Yuran's heart sank. The Dugu clan and the Yun clan had been on good terms for generations. But now, the Yun clan actually became enemies, and wanted to join forces with the other three undying emperor clans to deal with their Dugu clan. This sudden change caused Dugu Yuran to be caught off guard. This was simply too unexpected. Look again. Near the teleportation array, the 20-plus members of the Dugu clan all had looks of rage on their faces. Clearly, they had long been controlled and had no control over their actions. One could say that the stronghold of the Dugu clan in this city had already fallen into the hands of their enemies. Is this operation of yours really an order from the Donghuang clan? All of a sudden, Lin Sun spoke, his black eyes gleaming with immeasurable depth. Yesterday, the Yuan sect had just started a cleansing operation. Yet today, the Donghuang clan already gave the order for the other four great clans to act together to deal with the Dugu clan. Wasn't this speed a little too fast? Who are you? Yun Xiaohong frowned. He couldn't see through Lin Sun. Lin Sun's aura was calm and seemed like a leisurely drifting cloud, yet he gave off an unfathomable feeling. This seat is the one asking you a question. As Lin Sun spoke, a terrifying aura suddenly radiated from his body. Instantly, Yun Xiaohong and the other experts of the Yun clan felt their vision turning black. Their bodies felt like they were being suppressed by the heavens and earth, and they uncontrollably knelt onto the ground. Bang bang bang! A series of muffled sounds rang out. No matter how high or low their cultivation was, all of them knelt before Lin Sun. This scene caused the experts of the Dugu clan to stiffen up. They were all dumbfounded. Even Dugu Yuran couldn't help but be shocked. She hadn't seen Lin Sun for many years. Although she knew that Lin Sun had already stepped into the transcendent realm and became the vice pavilion master of the Yuan sect, she had never seen Lin Sun's strength before. When she saw Lin Sun's aura forcing the experts of the Yun clan to kneel on the ground, it was imaginable how strong the shock in her heart was. The entire place was silent. Yun Xiaohong's expression changed as well. His eyes were wide open in anger. Friend, are you trying to become enemies with my Yun clan? His voice was filled with threat. Bang! In the next moment, his body exploded. Fresh blood flowed all over the ground. As for his spirit, it was grabbed by Lin Sun. Without saying anything, Lin Sun directly searched his soul. Everyone present trembled in fear. They were all frightened by this bloody scene. A heavenly longevity realm paragon could be considered a giant in the entire seventh heaven. After all, he was someone who had stepped onto the path of immortality. In the eyes of billions of people, he was no different from a deity. But now, he had been killed like an ant. This was too terrifying. When they looked at Lin Sun again, everyone's gaze changed. The silent atmosphere didn't last for long. Lin Sun crushed the spirit in his hand into powder. He heaved a sigh of relief and said, "They still don't know what happened in the Yuan sect. This time, it was the Donghuang clan's idea to deal with your Dugu clan. Their goal is to capture your clansmen and use them to threaten Vice Pavilion Master Dugu Yong." Dugu Yuran said, "Since they don't know what happened to the Yuan sect, Wouldn't they anger my granduncle by doing this? Lin Sun said. The 10 immortal giants suffered heavy casualties in the immortal Dao battle. They should have realized that if the Yuan sect knew that they had sent people to deal with me and Vice Pavilion Master Feng Daoping, they would definitely not let it go. That's why they took action in advance. Once the Yuan sect starts a war with them, they can use this opportunity to threaten them. Dugu Yuan finally understood. He couldn't help but say anxiously, "Doesn't that mean that my Dugu clan is no longer safe?" Lin Sun comforted him softly, "Don't panic. The 4 Eastern royal clans' actions this time were extremely secretive. They split up and sneaked into your territory. They only started their operation today. In such a short period of time, it's impossible for them to swallow your Dugu clan." As he spoke, he waved his sleeve. Boom! There were more than 30 Yun clan powerhouses kneeling on the ground, but at this moment, all of them turned into ashes and dissipated. This terrifying scene of death caused everyone to gasp. There's no time to lose. There's no time to lose. Let's go to your clan now. Lin Sun walked towards the teleportation formation ahead. Dugu Yuan was already out of his wits. Hearing this, he subconsciously followed Lin Sun. Everyone, quickly activate the teleportation formation. Let's go together. Lin Sun stepped forward and undid the restrictive power on the more than 20 Dugu clansmen. Yes. At this moment, no one objected. They seemed to be intimidated by Lin Sun's power, and they all appeared extremely cooperative. It was also at this moment that Dugu Yuan suddenly realized that after all these years, perhaps Lin Sun's attitude towards him hadn't changed, but his cultivation had already surpassed most immortal figures in the world. His power was also so strong that all living beings in the world could only look up to him. For everyone present, Yun Xiaohong and the others were already existences that made them despair. But in his eyes, they were no different from ants. In fact, Dugu Yuan was right. Over these years, Lin Sun had experienced countless bloody killings. He had long since disregarded such a small scene in front of him. With a wave of spatial fluctuation, the teleportation formation rumbled. Lin Sun and the others immediately disappeared. Xuanji Cave World. This was one of the 12 caves, the top secret realm of the 7th heaven. It was also the territory of the Dugu clan. However, the picturesque Xuanji Cave World that used to be filled with spirits was now filled with shocking scenes of dilapidated ruins. The majestic mountain ridges had collapsed and the earth was cracked. Many medicinal fields had been ruined into scorched earth, and many places were still stained with scarlet blood. The void was filled with the pungent smell of gunpowder. It was obvious that this place had just experienced an extremely tragic battle. Central area. There were 3 majestic mountain peaks standing in a triangular formation. At this moment, they were covered by countless restrictive power. Light rain flowed, and divine clouds steamed. There was also the power of order lingering above and below the 3 peaks. This was the core of the Dugu clan. At this moment, not far from these 3 peaks, there was a dense group of figures standing. They were led by the patriarch of the Yun clan, Yun Chongkong, the patriarch of the Nan clan, Nan Jinyuan, the patriarch of the Li clan, Li Qingzheng, and the patriarch of the Gu clan, Gu Shanxing. Every one of them has the cultivation of a nirvana god. In the 7th heaven, they can be regarded as a true overlord, a leader that all the immortal emperor clans in the world have to respect. Behind them were the powerhouses of their respective clans. There were immortals and emperors. The 4 major clans had gathered together, and there were thousands of them. Such a terrifying lineup can easily sweep away any immortal emperor clan in the 7th heaven. The previous battle had come to an end. The 4 clans of the Dongguan clan had joined forces and swept through the Xuanji Cave, forcing the clansmen of the Dugu clan to these 3 peaks. This was the core area of the Dugu clan. It was covered with countless restrictions and order power, which resisted the attack of the 4 immortal emperor clans. But everyone knows that this is only temporary. Brother Dugu, the longer this drags on, the less safe your Dugu clan will be. Considering the friendship between our two clans, I, Yun Changkong, can guarantee that as long as you surrender with your clansmen, I will not kill a single person. At this time, the patriarch of the Yun clan, Yun Changkong, spoke loudly, his voice spreading throughout the world. The 7th update is here. Thank you everyone for your gifts and monthly votes today. The goldfish can't stand it anymore, it's time to sleep. Chapter 2990. 3 mountain peaks surrounded and protected them. On one of the mountain peaks there were many palaces. Dugu Xiao and the other important figures of the Dugu clan gathered together and looked at the powerhouses of the 4 Donghuang clans in the distance with ugly expressions. As the patriarch, Dugu Xiao's heart was filled with deep remorse and self-blame in addition to anger. The Yun clan and the Dugu clan were old friends. Dugu Xiao did not suspect anything when the clan leader of the Yun clan, Yun Changkong, came to visit today and invited Yun Changkong into the Xuanji paradise. Then, a calamity occurred. Yun Changkong carried the secret treasure, the Mountain River World Map, and the powerhouses of the 4 Donghuang clans were hidden inside. When Yun Changkong successfully entered the Xuanji paradise, he immediately took out the Mountain River World Map. Then, the powerhouses of the 4 Donghuang clans appeared out of nowhere and caused this disaster. They had a strong lineup and came prepared. In a hurry, Dugu Xiao only had time to retreat far away and gather all the clansmen in the core of the clan. Even so, there were still heavy casualties. Those clansmen who did not have time to hide in the core of the clan were mercilessly slaughtered by the 4 Donghuang clans. Heads rolled and blood flowed like rivers. The huge Xuanji paradise was filled with flames of war and devastation. This made Dugu Xiao's heart bleed and he was furious. He had never thought that Yun Changkong's arrival would cause such a bloody disaster. Stabbing someone in the back by an acquaintance was undoubtedly the most ruthless and unexpected. The key to this disaster was that Dugu Xiao had not been prepared for Yun Changkong's arrival at all. He had never thought that the 4 Donghuang clans would gather together and turn into a great army to kill him. This was simply an unexpected disaster. At this moment, in the eyes of Dugu Xiao and the others, the mountains in the distance had collapsed, the earth cracked, and smoke billowed. The picturesque mountains and rivers of the past had been turned into scorched earth. This made the hearts of the important figures of the Dugu clan ache, and they were filled with grief and indignation. Clan leader, the clan's power of order can't hold on much longer. Suddenly, an old man in gray said in a trembling voice. His words made the hearts of Dugu Xiao and the others sink. The power of order of the Dugu clan was of the 9th grade heaven stage. It was extremely mysterious and had protected the clan for countless years. This was also the biggest obstacle that had kept them going until now. Once it was destroyed, they would have nowhere to hide. Have the women, children, and young people of the clan been settled down? Dugu Xiao took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. According to the patriarch's instructions, they have already been kept in the Chaos Sun flying shuttle. If anything happens, the 9th elder will take them away. Someone answered quickly. All right. Dugu Xiao's eyes were suffused with a wisp of resolution. When the energy of order is broken, all of us old fellows will kill our way out together. Even if we have to risk our lives, we'll help 9th elder slaughter a path of blood. As long as he's alive, he'll be able to leave with the Chaos Sun flying shuttle, and our Dugu clan won't be exterminated. Yes. The group of old monsters looked as if they were facing death with equanimity. Someone muttered, Patriarch Duguyong sent us news yesterday, saying that he wants to bring our entire clan to the primordial realm to settle down. As long as we persevere until the people from the Yuan sect arrive, we might be saved. Distant water can't put out a nearby fire. Dugu Xiao let out a long sigh. Moreover, haven't you all noticed that the 4 clans of the East Imperial family are well prepared? Every clan has brought along a transcendent realm expert's dharma. Under such circumstances, Even if the experts sent by the Yuan sect arrive, I'm afraid that they won't be able to defeat them. Everyone's mood became heavier. The lineup of the 4 clans of the East Imperial family was terrifying. There were nearly 100 Nirvana God Realm experts. Apart from that, there were more than 400 Heavenly Longevity Realm experts. Most of them were from the 4 clans of the East Imperial family, and some were from the forces under the 4 clans. As for the Emperor Realm experts, there were more than 800. These Emperor Realm experts weren't of much use in a real battle, but they were useful in capturing and killing the weaker members of the Dugu clan. Just by looking at this lineup, one could tell that the 4 clans of the East Imperial family were here to exterminate the Dugu clan. In addition, the most frightening thing was that the patriarchs of the 4 clans of the East Imperial family all had Transcendent Realm experts in their hand. This was their trump card. Among the major immortal emperor clans of the 7th heaven, the Nirvana God Realm experts were already supreme existences. It was almost impossible to see a Transcendent Realm expert. Under such circumstances, having the Transcendent Realm expert's Dharma will was already the strongest trump card in the world. Of course, the Dugu clan also had such a trump card. It was Dugu Yong's Dharma will. Unfortunately, there was only one. Dugu Xiao was reluctant to use it unless it was a matter of life and death. In other words, he'd long since taken this trump card to be a desperate measure, and he intended to use it to carve out a path of blood and help the 9th Elder escape with the Chaos Sun flying shuttle. Boom! A series of earth-shattering bombardments resounded as the countless restrictions around the 3 mountains began to crumble layer by layer. Even the order power was fluctuating violently, faintly showing signs of being unable to support it. The forces of the 4 clans of the East Imperial family continued to attack, seizing every opportunity to destroy the restrictions and order of this place. Brother Dugu, if you continue to delay, when the defensive power of this place is completely destroyed, I'm afraid that some casualties will be inevitable. The voice of the Yun clan's patriarch, Yun Chongkong, sounded again. Moreover, the forces of our 4 clans have already covered the entire Ziwei Star region. The Dugu clan members scattered in other places will not be able to escape death. This damn old bastard! All of a sudden, the eyes of the big figures of the Dugu clan turned red with anger. Everyone, get ready. We'll kill our way out together. Dugu Xiao took a deep breath and made a decision. The order power would not last for too long. There was no point in waiting any longer. Alright. The other big figures of the Dugu clan were filled with murderous intent. Their bodies were steaming with a terrifying Tao light, ready to fight. 9th Elder, you'll follow behind us in a moment. As soon as you get the chance, you'll escape immediately. You mustn't be delayed in the slightest. Remember, you carry the hopes of the entire Dugu clan on your shoulders. You mustn't let anything happen to you. Dugu Xiao looked at the 9th Elder, who was not far away. The 9th Elder's eyes were red. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a low voice, "Leader and everyone, please rest assured. Even if I have to risk my life, I will bring our clansmen to the Yuan sect." Dugu Xiao no longer hesitated. He took out a bronze Dao sword and was about to lead everyone into action. At this moment, boom! A deafening sound came from afar. It was like thunder from the 9 heavens, causing the entire Xuanji cave to tremble violently. Following that, a cry of alarm was heard. "Who? You're courting death. Everyone be careful. Someone has broken the seal at the entrance of the Xuanji cave and has broken in." At this moment, the huge lineup of the 4 clans of the East Imperial clan was also in chaos. The 4 clan leaders looked gloomy as they looked behind them. Before this battle, they had already sent people to seal the entrance of the Xuanji cave. However, it was obvious that someone had broken in at this moment. This unforeseen event also surprised Dugu Xiao and the other big shots of the Dugu clan. They looked at each other and decided not to take action for the time being. Under the gazes of countless people, 2 figures appeared in the distance. It was a man and a woman. The man's figure was tall, handsome, and otherworldly. The woman had bright eyes and white teeth. She was extremely beautiful. Yuran. When he saw the woman, Dugu Zhao's pupils suddenly constricted, and his heart rose to his throat. The other big shots of the Dugu clan were stunned as well. It's Yuran and the big shots of the Yuan sect. But who is this young man? It should be Lin Sun, the extremely dazzling young man of the Yuan sect. It is said that he has attained the immortal way a few years ago. He possesses the cultivation of the heavenly longevity realm and has become a deacon. The heavenly longevity realm. It's over. I'm afraid Ancestor Dugu Yong doesn't know about the disaster that has befallen our clan today. That's why he sent Yuran and a young man to receive us. The expressions of these big shots changed, and they looked worried. They had heard of Lin Sun's name and knew that he was extremely dazzling and could be called a peerless genius. However, they still did not know that the current Lin Sun was no longer an deacon. At the same time, Yun Chongkong, Nan Jinyuan, Li Qingjing, Gu Shanxing, and the other big shots of the 4 Eastern Imperial clans also saw Lin Sun and Dugu Yuran. They were also stunned, but soon relaxed expressions appeared on their faces. Ha ha ha, I was wondering who it was. So it's my niece, Yuran. You've come at the right time. With you here, your father will no longer put up a stubborn resistance. Yun Chongkong laughed loudly and his voice shook the clouds. That guy is Lin Sun, the little bastard who killed so many of the experts of the 4 great imperial clans. Nan Jinyuan, Li Qingjing, and the others all recognized Lin Sun. Although this was the first time they had met Lin Sun, he had long since branded his appearance in their minds through all the information they had received. At this moment, they all exuded an uncontrollable killing intent. The 4 clans of the 4 Eastern Imperial clans had become enemies with Lin Sun a long time ago. In the ruins of the gods, Lin Sun had killed many of the experts of their clans. In the years since Lin Sun had entered the eternal world, the number of experts of the 4 clans who had died at his hands was not small. Even in the Yuan Church, Lin Sun had killed many of the members of the 4 clans like Yun Muzha. It could be said that this kind of hatred could not be washed clean even if the 4 seas were poured out. Father, how are you? Dugu Yuran's pretty face was pale, and she asked anxiously. Ever since they entered the Xuanji Grotto heaven, they had seen scenes of chaos, destruction, and blood. At this moment, when they saw the army of the 4 clans surrounding the 3 mountains, Dugu Yuran's heart clenched. She was filled with hatred and worry. Lin Sun, please take my daughter away and return to the Yuan Church. Suddenly, Dugu Zhao's voice came from a mountain in the distance, and it was filled with urgency. Since they are already here, why should they leave? Moreover, now can they still leave? Yun Chongkong said with a smile, but his smile was exceptionally cold and indifferent. Chapter 2991. As he spoke, Yun Chongkong waved his hand. A group of Nirvana realm cultivators moved across the sky, blocking Lin Sun and Dugu Yuran's escape route. Dugu Xiao and the others, who saw this scene from afar, turned pale, and their hearts sank to the bottom. Let's go and kill our way out. No matter what, we can't let Lin Sun and Yuran die here. Dugu Zhao's eyes were bloodshot and his hair stood on end. He hadn't been so angry for a long time. But more than anger, he felt a kind of despair from the bottom of his heart. No one could see any hope in today's situation, but just as they were about to act, Lin Sun suddenly smiled and said in a clear voice, "Everyone of the Dugu clan, don't worry. Let me settle the scores with these old opponents first, and then I'll come to take you away." His voice was calm, but it resounded throughout the world. Dugu Xiao and the others were stunned. What was this kid going to do? Was he going to fight against the army of the 4 Eastern royal clans alone? Yun Chongkong, Nan Jinyuan, and the others almost thought they had heard wrong, and their expressions became playful. Only Dugu Yuran's eyes lit up, full of hope. Among those present, only she knew how terrifying Lin Sun's combat strength was. "Take him down!" Yun Chongkong shouted. Immediately, a group of heavenly longevity realm cultivators rushed out and surrounded Lin Sun aggressively. Boom! They all displayed their Taoist skills, and divine light surged, turning into an overwhelming torrent of the great way that swept towards Lin Sun. Lin Sun's eyes were calm, and his lips were full of mockery. These attacks were terrifying, but before they could get close to Lin Sun, they were obliterated by an invisible pressure. "You're asking to be humiliated." Lin Sun waved his sleeves and said lightly. Boom! The world was turned upside down, and the sun and moon lost their light. The dozen or so heavenly longevity realm cultivators who had attacked Lin Sun before were suddenly covered by a hurricane of doomsday. Their bodies were instantly torn into countless pieces and dissipated. One blow shocked everyone present. The experts of the 4 Eastern royal clans were shocked, and their expressions changed greatly. "This, damn it, how can he be so powerful? Rumor has it that a few years ago, didn't he just prove the immortal way?" Screams of anger sounded, and countless people looked at Lin Sun incredulously. At the peak of the distant mountain, Dugu Shao and all the other lords of the Dugu clan were burning with anxiety, and they intended to immediately kill their way out to rescue Qin Shi. However, when they saw this scene, their eyes couldn't help but stare wide open while they were extremely astounded. Lin Sun, how could he be so powerful? Boom! Lin Sun waved his sleeves again. In the nearby area, the bodies of the great emperors who were closest to him exploded like bugs being crushed. Blood mist rose up from their bodies and started to ferment. This was a massacre without any suspense. Those emperors are the backbone of the 7th heaven and can rule a territory. Although they aren't as powerful as existences on the immortal path, in the eyes of all living beings, they can be said to be unreachable characters. Yet now, just a single attack had annihilated hundreds of emperors. Yun Chongkong, Nan Zhenyuan, and the other patriarchs turned pale when they saw this, and they shouted, "Elders of the Nirvana realm, quickly capture this fiend." Boom! Dozens of Nirvana realm cultivators moved out, each more terrifying than the other. All of them had the power to shake the heavens and turn the earth upside down. When they moved together, just their auras alone were powerful enough to make one feel despair. Still too weak. Lin Sun's eyes were indifferent. As he spoke, he waved his sleeves again. Boom! Countless dense sword chi streaked across the sky, like flowing rainbows covering the starry sky. Each sword flashed with a frightening luster. In the eyes of everyone, at this moment, it was as if a torrential rain of swords fell from the sky, and the dozens of Nirvana realm cultivators were instantly drowned in it. Muffled explosions followed, all kinds of treasures were torn like paper, and all kinds of Taoism were crushed by the vast and surging sword chi, while the Taoist bodies of the Nirvana realm cultivators were mercilessly cut and slaughtered by the dense rain of swords. Puff, puff, blood flowers bloomed in the rain of swords, scarlet and enchanting, like a painting of death unfolding in front of everyone's eyes. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Nirvana realm cultivators were killed. This bloody and terrifying scene stimulated the experts of the 4 Eastern imperial clans, causing their eyes to pop out of their sockets. Their minds trembled, and they almost collapsed. The Emperor realm and Heavenly Longevity realm experts were even more frightened, and their bodies were trembling. This was too terrifying. How is this possible? Yun Chongkong, Nan Zhenyuan, Li Qingjing, and Gu Shanxing were also shocked, and chills ran down their spines. The power of the transcendent realm. Someone hissed. This is the power of the transcendent realm. This kid is not a heavenly longevity realm cultivator, but a transcendent realm cultivator. His voice spread across the heavens and earth. Everyone was shocked, as if they were struck by lightning. Transcendent realm. That was a supreme existence, one that was rarely seen in the entire 7th heaven. Only the immortal forces of the 8th heaven had such a transcendent figure. What was even more unacceptable was that such a realm actually appeared on Lin Sun. This completely subverted their understanding. Who would dare to believe that the young man who was only in the ancestor realm when he joined the Yuan sect would, in just a few decades, cross the heavenly longevity realm and nirvana realm, and achieve transcendent realm? This was simply too shocking. Not only the experts of the 4 eastern royal clans, but even the Dugu clan on the distant mountain peak were all dumbfounded. Lin Sun, he had already achieved transcendent realm? Wasn't this speed of advancement too terrifying? Throughout the ages, when had such a heaven-defying figure ever appeared in the heavens? If this is all you have, then all of you can stay here today. In this deathly atmosphere, Lin Sun spoke indifferently. He began to walk forward, and an obscure immortal divine halo emerged on his tall figure. His aura also pierced through the 9 heavens at this moment, piercing through the heavens and earth. From afar it was as if the ruler of the heavens had descended, patrolling the mountains and rivers. Boom! As he took a step forward, the void seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure and collapsed. The terrifying power of the great path spread, and the figures of the Emperor Realm cultivators in the nearby area seemed to have suffered the most terrifying suppression in the world, and exploded like paper. There was no time to escape, no time to hide, and no time to react. Even if they desperately resisted, it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, and they died on the spot. Then, it was the heavenly longevity realm cultivators. They were slightly stronger, and as soon as they sensed that something was wrong, they immediately teleported to dodge. But they were shocked to find that the void around them seemed to have been frozen, and their figures were like insects stuck in a spider's web. No matter how they struggled, it was of no use. And when Lin Sun stepped forward, the accompanying pressure spread out first, making them feel suffocated. Their bodies seemed to have been smashed by an ancient divine mountain, and their bodies exploded one by one, and blood splattered everywhere. No! How could this be? Save me! All sorts of shrill and terrified screams rang out one after another. But very quickly, these screams came to an abrupt end with the sudden deaths of these experts. This scene was too terrifying. Lin Sun only took a step forward and did not make a move, but the pressure from his body actually suppressed those immortal realm cultivators and emperor realm cultivators to death on the spot. Fresh blood smeared the void scarlet and dazzling. The aura of death was like a lingering fog that shrouded the heavens and earth. There were also rebirth god realm experts that activated their trump cards and charged over explosively. However, before they could even arrive before Lin Sun, their bodies stiffened as if they'd been grabbed by a shapeless hand, and the trump card they executed was dispersed along with it. When they tried to dodge, the power released from Lin Sun's body ruthlessly crushed them. Yun Changkong, Nanjun Yuan, Li Qingjing, and Gu Shanxing felt a chill down their spines. They no longer dared to hesitate and displayed their trump cards. Boom! Along with the rumble, 4 transcendent realm cultivators' Dharma images appeared, like 4 dazzling suns rising, illuminating the mountains and rivers, and suppressing the heavens and earth. Lin Sun's expression was as calm as before, and he flicked his fingers continuously. Clang! 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 Amidst the earth-shattering sword cries, 4 sword chi whizzed out. Each sword was imprinted with obscure and mysterious laws, and each sword slashed towards one of the Dharma images. And then, boom! The heavens and earth shook violently, and the nearby area seemed to collapse. In the dazzling brilliance, the 4 transcendent realm Dharma images were all torn apart and dissipated. Even the powerful transcendent realm cultivators were so weak in front of Lin Sun. This scene was like a bolt from the blue, completely shattering the fighting spirit in Yun Changkong and the others' hearts, making them feel completely terrified. They couldn't care about anything else and shouted, "Go, go!" The battlefield was already in complete chaos. The remaining experts' fighting spirit had also collapsed, and they were panic-stricken, fleeing in all directions. Don't you think it's too late to leave at this moment? Lin Sun's eyes were cold, and the black water Tao body rushed out at this moment. Whoosh! Countless clones rushed out from the black water Taoist physique like an overwhelming tide, rushing toward the enemies who were fleeing in all directions. Each of these avatars was no weaker than the Nirvana realm. It was more than enough to deal with the 4 East royal clans. For a time, there were scenes of death everywhere. Blood splattered and screams echoed endlessly. Dugu Shao and the other big shots of the Dugu clan were stunned, unable to recover for a long time. The shock brought by this scene was too great, like a landslide and a tsunami hitting their minds. Previously, they were still worried about the safety of Lin Sun and Dugu Yuran, and planned to rescue them. But now they realized how ridiculous and childish their worries were. With Lin Sun's current cultivation, he could easily crush the entire 4 East royal clans. In front of him, the Nirvana realm cultivators were no different from ants. At this moment, Dugu Yuran was also in a trance. The forces of the 4 East royal clans, thousands of people, collapsed in such a short time, and Lin Sun didn't even use his full strength from the beginning to the end. Such a contrast was particularly shocking. Bang 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 bang. Soon, a dull sound rang. Yun Chongkong, Nanjin Yuan, Li Qingjing, and Gu Shanxing, the 4 patriarchs, were captured by the Black Water Tao body and smashed in front of Lin Sun. All of them were paralyzed. Looking at other places, the experts belonging to the 4 East royal clans were all dead. P.S. Today's update is normal. Yesterday's explosion was too fierce, so let's take a break today and smooth out the plot. Chapter 2992. The world was silent. The smell of blood was still pervading the air. The 4 clan leaders of the East Royal clan, who were paralyzed on the ground, had ashen faces. This time, they came prepared and unexpectedly attacked the Xuanji cave world. They already had an absolute advantage. They thought that the outcome was already set, and the Dugu clan could not save the situation. Who would have thought that at the last critical moment, Lin Sun's appearance completely shattered everything? Thousands of experts were the most elite and top backbone of the 4 immortal emperor clans. Now they were destroyed here in an instant. Such a heavy loss was no longer as simple as a great loss of vitality. It was enough to shake the foundation of the 4 clans, and there was a risk of destruction. Just think about it. It was obvious that without great figures like them holding down the fort, their clans were bound to become prey in the eyes of other powers, and they would be at the mercy of others. When Dugu Shao arrived with a group of big figures of the Dugu clan, they saw such a scene. They were shocked, but they also felt indescribable joy in their hearts. "I'll leave these 4 people to you," Lin Sun said casually. "Thank you for your help, little friend. You saved our Dugu clan from danger." Dugu Shao bowed and saluted with excitement. "Thank you, little friend." The other big figures also saluted. Dugu Yuran on the side couldn't help but say, "Father, uncles, Lin Sun is now the deputy pavilion master of Yuan Sec's Yuankong Pavilion. He is on the same level as granduncle." Dugu Shao and the others were all shocked and dumbfounded. Deputy pavilion master! They didn't expect that in just a few decades, Lin Sun was already a deputy pavilion master. His status was so high that it was frightening. Not to mention in the 7th heaven, even if it is in the 8th heaven, even the elders among the immortal giants have to be courteous when they see him. It turns out to be Deputy Pavilion Master Lin. "We were negligent before, please forgive us." Dugu Shao quickly changed his address. He understood all too well how powerful the Yuan clan's Deputy Pavilion Master was. He could even order the elders with transcendent realm cultivation to obey his orders. Lin Sun could become a Deputy Pavilion Master at such a young age. The significance of this itself was even more shocking. "Yuran and I are friends. You don't have to be so polite," Lin Sun said. "Although the enemies of Xuanji Cave World have been destroyed, there are still many experts belonging to the 4 East Royal clans in Ziwei Star Zone. However, these are just some small characters. I won't get involved. Leave it to us." Dugu Shao said without hesitation, "Elders, bring some people with you to deal with these matters." I will personally entertain Vice Pavilion Master Lin. Yes. The elders nearby took the order and left. All of them had a bellyful of rage that they had nowhere to vent, so they could seize this opportunity to vent their anger. Lin Sun suddenly thought of something. He looked at Dugu Xiao and asked, Senior, how far is it from here to the 4 eastern royal families? Dugu Xiao said, Recently, the Yun clan has settled in the luminous paradise of the Wei starfield. The other 3 immortal emperor clans are in the Cyan Light starfield. Sect of Lin. Lin said. Lin sect is. And of sect in is. Do you have a map of these clans? Lin Sun asked. Dugu Xiao took out a blank jade slip and imprinted the location of the 4 East Royal clans. Then he handed it to Lin Sun with both hands. Although Lin Sun didn't care about seniority and status, Dugu Xiao's words and actions were full of great respect. Lin Sun didn't get used to it, but he didn't try to change anything. In fact, he couldn't change anything. In the cultivation world, the higher one's level was, the higher one's status was. This was imprinted in the bones of all cultivators. Lin Sun took the jade slip and immediately summoned Chihua, Greenwood, Platinum, and Yellow Earth. With a thought, he transmitted the location of the 4 East Royal clans to the 4 Tao bodies. Then, the 4 Taoist physiques left and headed into the distance. Deputy Pavilion Master Lin, are you going to? Dugu Xiao realized something and couldn't help being moved. I'm not going to eradicate them. After all, it's not good to kill innocent people. But there's no need for the 4 East Royal clans to exist. Lin Sun said casually. The 4 patriarchs, including Yun Chongkong, who were paralyzed on the ground, had lost all hope. When they heard Lin Sun's words, they roared and cursed Lin Sun in all kinds of ways. Before Lin Sun could do anything, Dugu Xiao had already cut off the heads of the 4 powerful patriarchs. Their blood spilled all over the ground. After doing all this, Dugu Xiao seemed to have finally vented the resentment in his heart, and he felt much more relaxed. He made an inviting gesture and said, Vice Pavilion Master Lin, quickly invite him in. Lin Sun nodded and said, Thank you for your hospitality. He immediately went to the core area of Lin family with Dugu Yuran. Half a day later, a group of elders of the Dugu clan who went out to kill the enemy returned with good news. The 4 East Royal clans scattered in Ziwei Star Zone had been defeated, and the casualties among the Dugu clansmen scattered in different places were not great. This allowed Dugu Xiao to heave a sigh of relief. 1 day later, Lin Sun's 4 Tao bodies returned one after another. With a thought, Lin Sun learned about the operation of the 4 Tao bodies. In short, the territories of the 4 East Royal clans had been destroyed, and the 9th-level heaven rank power covering their clans had been taken away by Lin Sun. In other words, from today on, the 4 East Royal clans would no longer exist in the 7th heaven. On the same day, Lin Sun and Dugu Yuran left Ziwei Star Zone. All the clansmen of the Dugu clan had been placed in the hybrid sun shuttle, which Lin Sun carried with him. In this way there would be no accident. After leaving Ziwei Star Zone, Lin Sun went straight to Tianxian Star Zone. The Yuan clan was entrenched in Tianxian Star Zone. At the same time, Lin Sun sent Greenwood Taoist body to the Central Star Zone. There were 36 blessed lands in the Central Star Zone. Green Bamboo Blessed Land was one of them, and now it was occupied by the immortal Emperor Zhuang clan. Lin Sun naturally would not forget the treatment he and senior sister Jun Huan had suffered when they went to the Zhuang clan. Naturally, he would not forget how the Zhuang clan repaid kindness with enmity. Green Bamboo Blessed Land. When Lin Sun's Greenwood Taoist body arrived, it was already half a day later. A trace of trance appeared in Lin Sun's eyes. Back then, he and senior sister Jun Huan came here in order to get in touch with Zhuang Shirlu, the deputy deacon of the Yuan sect, with the help of the Zhuang clan. Who would have thought that the Zhuang clan not only refused to help, but also ridiculed them. In the end, they even used a trick to detain them. The reason was that the Zhuang clan had already surrendered to the Mu clan in the 8th heaven. and the Zhuang clan wanted to capture them in order to ask for rewards from the Mu clan. If that was all, it would not be a big deal. But the key was that the master of the square-inch mountain was kind to the ancestors of the Zhuang clan. A long time ago, he helped the ancestors resolve the danger and seized the green bamboo-blessed land for them. That was why the Zhuang clan was where they are today. But now, the Zhuang clan had surrendered to the Mu clan and regarded the descendants of the Mountain of Heart as their enemy. This kind of act of repaying kindness with enmity was intolerable to Lin Sun. When he left the green bamboo-blessed land, Lin Sun once said that one day, he would take back the green bamboo-blessed land for his master. "Who are you?" The two guards stationed outside the green bamboo-blessed land shouted. Lin Sun woke up from his thoughts and glanced at the two guards. Plop, plop. The two guards lay on the ground silently and fainted. With Lin Sun's current status, he disdained to kill such two small characters. He walked straight into the green bamboo-blessed land. As one of the 36 blessed lands in the central main region, the green bamboo-blessed land had picturesque mountains and rivers. The chaotic aura of the ancient beginning was enshrouded in the air. It had the reputation of being the most beautiful place in the world and the origin of the world. Along the way, Lin Sun saw many figures. There were servants, manservants, guards, and so on. There were also the clansmen of the Zhuang clan who were practicing in the martial arts arena. However, these people did not notice Lin Sun's existence at all. Lin Sun did not pay attention to them. He was never a person who would kill innocent people. In Lin Sun's view, the culprits were the big figures who held great power in the Zhuang clan. As for whether the descendants of these enemies would seek revenge in the future, Lin Sun did not care at all. When you were strong enough, the revenge of the enemies was no different from a moth flying into a flame. But most of the time, as long as you were strong enough, the descendants of the enemies had no chance to retaliate. Not long after, a verdant mountain full of green bamboos appeared in Lin Sun's sight. This was the core of the Zhuang clan. In an ancient palace, the patriarch Zhuang Bibo was brewing tea in a leisurely manner. In other palaces, the big figures of the Zhuang clan were also doing their own things. Some were refining elixirs, some were meditating, some were studying scriptures, and some were drinking, but at this moment, they were all shocked by a sudden voice. Lin Sun, the successor of Fang Xiyuan, has come to take back the green bamboo-blessed land on behalf of Master. The voice was like a thunderclap, shocking the ears of the big figures of the Zhuang clan who were scattered in different places and making them see stars. Lin Sun. Zhuang Bibo was shocked and his face changed abruptly. When Lin Sun first entered the Yuan sect, he became famous all over the world by winning the first place. Many things that happened in the past few years were also spread to the Zhuang clan. Especially when the news that Zhuang Shirlu was killed by Lin Sun spread, the whole Zhuang clan was shocked. During that period of time, it could be said that everyone was in a panic, and even the Zhuang clan was ready to evacuate. But as time went by, Lin Sun's revenge didn't come, which made the Zhuang clan gradually feel relieved. They even thought that after Lin Sun killed Zhuang Shirlu, he wouldn't care about them anymore. But who would have thought that the thing they were most worried about all these years still happened? Zhuang Bibo stood up at the first time and shouted sternly, "Elders, listen to my order. Quickly come out and kill the enemy." In fact, there was no need for him to order at all. After hearing Lin Sun's voice, the big figures who were scattered in different places rushed straight out and gathered around Zhuang Bibo. Clatter! Soon, countless restrictions were activated on the verdant mountain, and at the same time, the power of order emerged, like layers of barriers, protecting the place. Lin Sun looked at this scene with his hands behind his back and didn't stop them. Because these defensive methods were completely useless to him now, and they were utterly insufficient. Chapter 2993. Zhuang Bibo and the big shots of the Zhuang clan gathered together smoothly, and they finally felt relieved. He looked into the distance. Lin Sun was alone, and there was no one else to help him. This emboldened him, and he said coldly, Lin Sun, you killed our ancestor Zhuang Shirlu, and we haven't settled the score with you yet. How dare you come here and bully the Zhuang clan? Do you really think you can bully the Zhuang clan as you wish just because you are the successor of Yuan sect? Lin Sun laughed. So what if I bully you? Yu Zhuang Bibo took a deep breath and said, So, you want to refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit? He winked at the other big shots, telling them to get ready for battle. Lin Sun said indifferently, I said that sooner or later, I will take back this blessed land. If you destroy your own cultivation and leave this place obediently, I will let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, all of you won't be able to live if I make a move. Do it, Zhuang Bibo ordered. Their clan had been running the blessed land for many years, so how could they give up such a blessed land? And it was impossible for them to destroy their own cultivation. It was even crueler than killing them. Boom! The big shots of the Zhuang clan, who had been waiting for a long time, launched all kinds of treasures towards Lin Sun. The light was blazing and the sound was like thunder. Lin Sun was not surprised to see this scene. He raised his right hand and clapped in the void. A huge green palm condensed in the void, and suddenly turned into a momentum that covered the sky. It could cover the sky with one hand. Bang! Bang! All of the attacks exploded and dissipated like fireworks in front of the giant cyan hand. They couldn't stop the giant cyan hand at all. This made Zhuang Bibo and the other old monsters change their expressions. In their eyes, this green-colored hand was boundlessly large, and it seemed as if it covered the entire universe. When it soared through the sky, even the light in the sky was blotted out, and when a terrifying pressure was released, it caused space to explode and rumbling to resound. Hundreds of millions of green power of law poured out from the huge green hand like a waterfall, dazzling and blazing. It was like the hand of God. Use the power of order, Zhuang Bibo shouted. Countless restrictions were operating on the Green Mountain, and the power of order was circulating and evaporating. The defensive power was amazing. But in the next moment, a wave of muffled explosions resounded. Layers upon layers of restrictive power exploded under the pressure of the giant cyan hand, and the scattered light rain tumbled like a torrent. Shortly after, the order energy that enveloped the entire mountain peak rumbled as it couldn't bear the heavy burden. Under countless shocked gazes, the order energy was ruthlessly crushed. Boom! The heavens shook and the earth trembled. A rain of light splashed everywhere. By the time Zhuang Bibo and the others were planning to run, the space around them had already been covered by the giant azure hand. Moreover, the pressure released by the azure hand had locked their bodies in place, rendering them unable to move. In an instant, all of them felt despair, and their eyes were filled with frustration, unwillingness, fear, and so on. How many years has it been? That young man who could only flee from their Zhuang clan has actually become so terrifying? Boom! As the huge green hand slammed down, the thousands of meters tall verdant mountain peak was instantly smashed into pieces. The mountain rocks and boulders were all turned into powder, and all kinds of buildings were turned into ashes. As for Zhuang Bibo and the other big shots, they were all smashed to smithereens and died on the spot. When the smoke and dust dispersed, the thousands of meters tall mountain peak had completely disappeared, as if it had been erased from the earth. Along with it, the big shots of the Zhuang clan had also disappeared. From the beginning to the end, Lin Sun stood in the same place, tall and sturdy and calm. He waited for a moment, and was about to leave when he saw that no one rushed out. An angry voice sounded from afar. Who are you? Why did you break into my Zhuang clan and commit murder? It was a youth in white clothes, and he had a heroic bearing and extraordinary bearing. However, at this moment, his hair was disheveled, his cheeks were grim and livid, and his eyes were filled with hatred. He was only in the Saint realm, but he rushed out at this time. Obviously, he didn't care whether he would be killed or not. Seeing this fearless young man, Lin Sun was slightly stunned, and then said casually, "I'm Lin Sun, the deputy head of Yuankong Pavilion of Yuan Sect, the 50th successor of Mount Heart and Mind. If you want to avenge your Zhuang clan, you can come to me in the future." The young man's eyes were bloodshot. He gritted his teeth and said, "Remember, my name is Zhuang Tianxi. In the future, I will pay with my blood." Lin Sun replied, turned around and left. "Why don't you kill me?" Zhuang Tianxi screamed, as if he had gone mad. "If I kill you, doesn't it mean that I'm afraid of you taking revenge?" Lin Sun didn't look back. Those who want to exterminate the weeds are often afraid of the possible hidden dangers and revenge in the future. This is a kind of fear in itself, and I have never been afraid of these things. If you have the ability, you can come to me for revenge in the future." Zhuang Tianxi was stunned, and finally sat down on the ground and burst into tears. On this day, all the big shots of the Zhuang clan led by Zhuang Bibo were killed, and the rest of the Zhuang clan were expelled from the blessed land of green bamboo. Before Lin Sun left, he set up a restriction formation here. It was not very powerful, but it was a great test of a practitioner's Taoist heart and willpower. It was impossible for a person with complicated thoughts to break this formation. This was also a lucky chance, left by Lin Sun for all living beings in the world. He hoped that the fated one could enter the blessed land of green bamboo in the future. At the same time, in the Tianxian star region, Lin Sun and Dugu Yuan arrived at the territory of the Yuan clan smoothly. In the guest building, Yuan Qiwu, the patriarch of the Yuan clan, personally entertained Lin Sun. The old monsters of the Yuan clan were also sitting on one side. The wine was a rare divine brew, and the dishes were the best of the human world. While toasting, Yuan Qiwu and the big shots of the Yuan clan spoke with respect. The more powerful they were, the more they knew how important a deputy pavilion master of the Yuan clan was. If Lin Sun was not so young, these old guys would also call him senior. Yuan Qingheng was an old friend of Lin Sun, so he was also honored to sit at the banquet. She had bright eyes and white teeth, and her facial features were exquisite. She was dressed in a cyan dress, and her long hair was coiled into a bun. There was a golden pattern between her eyebrows, and her body was enshrouded in the divine light of the great path. Her temperament was dreamlike. On her shoulder there was a spiritual sparrow. At this time, looking at Lin Sun talking and laughing with the big shots of his clan, Yuan Qingheng couldn't help but be in a daze. Back then, when he met Lin Sun in the ancient desolation domain, Lin Sun was just a great emperor who rose up from a small place. In terms of cultivation, Lin Sun was even weaker than Yuan Qingheng back then. However, things had changed with the passage of time. The current Lin Sun was not the same as before. Not only had he attained the transcendent immortal realm, but he had also become a deputy pavilion master of the Yuan clan. Merely that identity was able to make their Yuan clan lower their heads and frown. Even in terms of cultivation, it was enough to make some old monsters feel ashamed of their inferiority. After so many years, Yuan Qingheng felt that Lin Sun was distant and unfamiliar. To her, the current Lin Sun was like a star in the sky to a grain of sand on the ground. One was high above, and the other could only look up to. Miss Dugu Yuan might not be stronger than you, but she can accompany Lin Sun. In my opinion, you can do it too. Cyan Sparrow's eyes rolled around, and she transmitted her voice to Yuan Qingheng with a trace of unwillingness. Why should I compare myself to her? Yuan Qingheng's eyes carried a trace of loneliness. She had also seen Dugu Yuan, who was sitting next to Lin Sun. Dugu Yuan's appearance and temperament were 1 in a million. However, Yuan Qingheng was also extremely confident in her appearance, and would not spend any effort on such things. Cyan Sparrow, remember that us women are not vassals, nor are we any man's playthings. As long as you are strong enough, there will be talented men who will bow down to you. Yuan Qingheng transmitted his voice indifferently. Cyan Sparrow sighed softly. Miss, if you want Lin Sun to bow down to you, I'm afraid it'll be harder than ascending to the heavens. Yuan Qingheng slapped Cyan Sparrow away, and a trace of embarrassment appeared in her eyes. Who would want that guy to bow down to them? Qingheng, what's wrong with you? Yuan Qiuwu asked with a smile from afar. Lin Sun and the others looked over as well. Yuan Qingheng immediately knew that she had lost her composure by slapping Cyan Sparrow. She shook her head. Nothing, I was just joking with Cyan Sparrow. Yuan Qiuwu laughed. You and Deputy Pavilion Master Lin are old friends. How can you not toast him today? Yuan Qingheng was stunned. She wanted him to toast that guy? No way. Seeing her sitting still, Yuan Qiuwu suddenly felt a little embarrassed, and the big shots present could not help but frown. Yuan Qingheng had always been considerate and appreciated, so what was wrong with her today? Lin Sun took the initiative to stand up, brought a cup of wine to Yuan Qingheng, and said with a smile, "This cup of wine should be toasted by me to Miss Qingheng. If not for her guidance in the past, I would not have known that the Nirvana world is called Eternal World." After saying that, he drained the cup in one gulp. Yuan Qiuwu and the others nodded with a smile. Yuan Qingheng frowned. How come you have become so greasy now? Lin Sun was stunned. Yuan Qingheng had already stood up, drained the cup, and said, "Deputy Pavilion Master Lin, please don't mind me. This is my personality." Lin Sun returned to his seat in confusion, not understanding why Yuan Qingheng's attitude was so cold. Next to him, Dugu Yuran said with a smile, "Seeing me sitting next to you, she must be very uncomfortable, so she lost her composure and said some harsh words." As she said that, she sighed softly. No matter how high her cultivation is or how knowledgeable she is, women will always be women. Even if they have nothing to do with each other, when they see a man they know chatting and laughing with another woman, they will always feel uncomfortable. Lin Sun, it was just a small matter of toasting. Was it necessary to be so particular? So subtle? So many meanings? Women. Lin Sun could not help sighing with emotion in his heart. Women know women best, Dugu Yuran said. Of course, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to sow discord. I can see that you are not interested in Yuan Qingheng, that's why I said that to you. Lin Sun smiled and stopped thinking about it. However, to his surprise, Yuan Qingheng raised his wine cup and walked in front of Dugu Yuran. He revealed a gentle and amiable smile and said, "Younger sister Yuran, what are you talking about with Vice Pavilion Leader Lin? Do you mind if I offer you a toast? P.S. There will be updates tonight.